bold journalism.
But Drew Hernandez is a strong-minded individual.
Exposing lawlessness.
Drew Hernandez, who is ideological.
Finding the truth.
And use the word Antifa.
This is what they do.
Battling
They're
mainstream
liars. The woke mob, all they can do is lie.
These are the front lines. Welcome to TPUSA Live. My name is Drew Hernandez, host of Frontlines. We've got a great show for you today and a lot coming up on the live stream. First here on Frontlines, my team and I went on the front lines to an anti-Disney rally outside the company's Burbank headquarters. We'll show you what went down and you'll hear just how sick of Disney's woke agenda real Americans are. Then we'll send it over to the couch for TPUSA Live with Jon Root and your favorite contributors. They're explaining TPUSA's newest campaign, Rise of the Citizen, and how you can get involved. Then Jack Posobiec takes it from there with more on how the mainstream media is refusing to correct misinformation surrounding Hunter Biden's laptop. Then the effort to save women's sports is ramping up. A former D1 swimmer sits down with Jon Root on Breakaway to talk about why it's not only unfair but unsafe to have men swim in the same division as women. Then, of course, Alex Clark is rounding out the stream with some scandalous new details surrounding Kim Kardashian's deleted tweets about a not-so-innocent death row inmate that she helped set free. And by the way, Frontlines is now available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and other streaming services. Do not forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review to support the show right now. But before we get into these headlines, I want to remind you that you can get steakhouse quality meat, chicken, and seafood delivered right to your door and donate to Turning Point USA directly with Good Ranchers. Right now, when you use code TPUSA at checkout, your purchase of a Good Ranchers American meat box supports everything we're doing right here. Or you can visit goodranchers.com/TPUSA for your box of American-made meat right now and to donate to our mission here. My name is Drew Hernandez, and you are now on the front lines. All right, America, breaking headline, frontline news, multiple news articles, viral footage yesterday. The team and I went to Burbank, California. I'm just going to give you guys one of these articles. It was all over MSN. It was all over the mainstream news. Boycott Disney protesters gather in front of Disney's corporate HQ in Burbank. Over 100 conservative protesters gathered in front of the Walt Disney Company's headquarters in Burbank, California yesterday. The demonstrators were protesting what they believe to be Disney's increasingly woke left-wing political stance, which includes defending child grooming, which is pretty ridiculous. Anyone should be opposed of this. The tweets we put up, the video, the footage we put up yesterday all over Twitter is approaching 1 million views. Which is great. This is headline news. Protesters can be heard chanting boycott Disney, and a conservative cast member voiced her concerns about Disney's increasingly political stance, particularly over the so-called Don't Say Gay bill, which is, we know, a anti-child grooming law, and claiming that they cannot freely express their political views at work without fear of termination. One very vocal Disney cast member who attended the rally said that Disney has gotten very political and it's gotten very hard to be who you are. She also said it's gotten very hard to be someone who has conservative values, someone who believes in the right to choose, and someone who believes that it's okay to stand up for righteousness. She also implored other conservative Disney cast members to stand up. It's okay, you're not alone. So we are seeing a pushback. This is a great thing to see. Not just conservatives, but people that are level-minded, that are coming out and saying, hey, this is really wrong. This should not be happening at all. Of course, you're going to piss off a lot of parents. You're going to piss off a lot of human beings that are thinking sanely. Of course that's going to happen, because anybody seeing what Disney is opposing, which is a bill that is meant to protect children from being groomed, people are going to start to wake up. You're going to have to deal with the mama bears. You're going to have to deal with the papa bears, because you cannot go after people's children and think you could get away with it, no matter how much money you have, no matter how many billions of dollars you have, Disney, you're not going to get away with it. Here's the footage from yesterday. What's going on, guys? Drew Hernandez here, host of Frontlines. I'm here in Burbank, California, in front of the Walt Disney headquarters here in California. There are a lot of parents out here, even children, that have come out to oppose Disney and their decision to oppose the anti-child grooming bill in Florida. What's going on with Disney right now is pretty disgusting. We're going to talk to some of the people and see what they have to say.
Boycott Disney! Boycott Disney! Boycott Disney! Boycott Disney!
You have no right to make children's decisions. You have no right to make decisions for parents. You have no right to anything about that at all. Don't you think we are on to you? Don't you think that? You people are done. You are finished. You have been taken out now. You are now out. We see you for what you are. You're a bunch of pedophiles.
All right, Drew Hernandez, we're out here, Burbank, California, in front of the Walt Disney headquarters. Parents, humans, people are just opposing what Disney is doing. They're pro-pedophilia. It's disgusting. I'm here with one of them here, one of the protesters now. What's going on out here? What are you doing?
Well, we got a lot of people out here. We got a worship band out here. And we got a lot of parents out here that are angry as all get out.
This movement is very powerful, but what's most important is that we expose companies like Disney. I grew up in Southern California. I wanted to go to Disneyland every single day when I was a kid, but I will never spend another dollar at this company ever again. I vote with my wallet every day.
I heard a Democrat, liberal, Marxist state that if you teach little children about Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny, and if you tell them a little girl can have a penis, they will believe that. And if you keep teaching that year after year, they will believe that. But we're too old, so that's why they're going after the little children, because we know better. We know there's two genders, we know there's a DNA, and I do x-rays, and let me tell you, I don't even have to see who you are to know if you're a man or a woman.
A lot of parents have awakened to the fact that, we can't stand by anymore and see what's going on with the entertainment, particularly, what is injected into the cartoons. And now that that secret video has come out about these directors or chair people talking about how they want to interject, homosexuality.
They're not so secret agenda.
No. And a lot of us are Christians are here, and our God calls us to stand up for righteousness and holiness, and we're just going to stand up for the truth. And God, in His Word, says He created them male and female, and that's what we're here to proclaim. And nothing's going to change that, and no government is going to make us disobey or sin against our God.
This will not happen on my watch as long as I live here. I'm a Southern California native, born in California. I grew up here. This is so wrong, and I'm here. I'm upset about it.
This is disgusting that they're trying to pervert our children. They want to sexualize them because I think we live in a world of pedophiles. And they live very high up in the ladder.
And they're being open about their pedophilia right now.
Very open, and they want to start, they've already started things on, I think it's Talk or Book Talk or whatever. There's another, where they were talking about how pedophiles should have their rights and they should be heard and everybody should be loved, and this is just a different form of love, and I thought this is disgusting.
It's total depravity. What's your message to the head of Disney, Bob Chapek, right now? If you could say anything to him regarding this, what would you say?
Resign. You need to resign. Or come out and support families that have supported this business, the community. We want to support this company, but we're not going to if you don't expose what's going on here. It's wrong. You should resign.
Stop. Absolutely stop. Let little girls and children be children. There are no gay children. There are no straight children. They're just children. Get your head and your hands out of their underwear and out of their minds. Leave them alone.
Well, I would say that I think he really needs to think about the decision they've made, because they've chosen sides now. It's not I know the company has been neutral for a long time, but unfortunately, I think he's given into the pressure of the one side, and now you've alienated 50% of your customers. And the scripture says in 1 John that we're not to love this world and the things of this world. And I think a lot of Christians need to wake up to the fact that they need to be very careful and not putting entertainment above God. They need to get back to doing what God, pleasing God. And if that means sacrificing their entertainment, then they need to pray to Almighty God to, help me, Lord, not to be controlled by entertainment anymore, but to find the right kind of entertainment that glorifies him.
Absolutely. We have to stand for the children. If we can't stand for the children, we have nothing. Drew Hernandez, we're going to continue to talk to some of these protesters. Stay tuned.
Here from Turning Point USA, and he's on Twitter. Come on, Drew. He's going to share for a minute.
All right, America, let's just be honest here. The Bible is very clear. Jesus made it very clear that in the last days, lawlessness would abound. That in the last days, the Holy Spirit makes it very clear that many will depart from the faith, many will depart from the faith, many will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons. That's not coming, that's now. So if you call yourself a Christian, if you dare step to the table and bear the name of Christ, and you're living in a generation where open pedophilia is being normalized, and you say nothing, shame on you. Drew Hernandez here, host of Frontlines. I'm here in front of the Walt Disney HQ in Burbank, California, a protest against Disney because they're taking a very pedophilic stance as of recently. I'm here with one of the TPUSA faith leaders. What's the message today? What brings you out here?
You know, I grew up watching Disney, and it was one of those things that was such a comforting feeling to have family values. Walt Disney was a patriot, and to see the direction that the company is taking, we don't need to sexualize our children. We need to go back to what made America great. And I mean, one of the signs that I have here today is quite literally, I get red, white, and blue. Walt Disney made Disneyland to have the ideals that made America great, and if he could be here today to see what was going on, he'd be totally disgusted. Our children need to grow up on the values of respect, kindness, inclusivity, but not this weird sexualization where we need to make their characters have a certain sexual preference. That's not a lesson our kids need to learn, and we need to protect them.
It's disgusting. We have to protect the kids. Speaking of the leadership of Disney, if you could say anything to the head of Disney, Bob Chapek, what would be your message to him right now?
My message would be that look at what made Disney such a great company that millions of lives have been impacted by. Don't cave into this wokeism. It's not going to work out, and people are starting to recognize that.
As a parent, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about the bill, the anti-child grooming bill in Florida. Disney is now taking a stance in opposition towards it. They're saying it's the don't say gay bill where you can't say the word gay, but it's meant to protect children.
Guess what? I don't want a child to know about gay, okay? I think that even if it's a don't say gay, fine, that's fine. Let's not say gay while they're children. Let children be innocent. Why do we have to thrust this man and woman and woman? I mean, some of us are Christians, and we actually put God on the throne, and we put the truth on the throne, and 2 men and 2 women don't make any babies. And this really is about population control. So think about the globalists. They want less people, because less people means more, it's easier to control people. Plus, they want to turn our children into like almost eunuchs, you know what I mean? Like slaves. So they take them away from their true identity. That's easy to control the kid. Yeah. And that's why they want them masked up and living in fear. I mean, this is total communism. Yeah. We want our children to know the truth, which I'm a Christian. I believe Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And that's why I want my child to learn those values, because that's our country. I mean, our country is based on God. That is, they keep saying democracy. When they say that, know that these people are frauds. No, we're not a democracy. We're not mob rule. We are a constitutional republic that puts God at the helm. Not big corporations, not big pharma, not Fauci that says he's science. It's really pseudoscience, okay? We put God on the throne. We don't put money. We don't put power. We put the truth. And that's what people need to do. They need to put morals first. And our kids deserve to be raised with morals.
I came out here, man. I was a big fan of Disney for a lot of years, but until I figured out what it was really all about, what was going on, the subliminal messages, and how they were trying to capture our children. You know, I'm over it and I'm done with it, man. It's disgusting and it's sick, and we're here to save the children. Simple as that.
It really is, but these people want to sexualize them. It's disgusting. Whether it's heterosexual, homosexual, we shouldn't be sexualizing little children. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
If you could say something to Bob Chapek, the head of Disney right now, if you could have a conversation with this guy, what would you tell him?
I'd say retire. Give it up, man. We're changing this whole agenda. We're changing the whole narrative. So if you don't want to give up your seat, we're going to dethrone you. because you don't deserve to have it anymore, straight up.
Well, first of all, we're dealing with demonic powers. Whether people believe in God or not has nothing to do with it. The facts are on the ground. These people are coming after your kids in the most evil way I've ever even seen. And I grew up on the left side of the fence, and this is beyond disgusting. So we're out here to stand up, God's people to say no more, and to roar like the lion that we have to be.
Bro, what would you say to people that are like not politically, I wouldn't say inclined, but invested? They're kind of like on the fence, and they're seeing this, and they believe that, it's the don't say gay bill. They don't want people to say gay, but actually the bill doesn't even say the word gay. It's an anti-child grooming law. What would your message be to those people that are just believing these lies?
Well, number one, read more. That's a problem we have in this country, and it's not trying to be funny. We need to read more. Number two, it's about your right as a parent to decide the fate of your children. That's where we are. No company, no business has business deciding for your family how to raise their kids. That's where we are. We have to give the responsibility back, and parents take back that responsibility. That's something ordained by God. Whether you believe him or not, it's still your responsibility, not the state. Not
the state. Last question. If you could have a conversation with Bob Chapek right now, the head of Disney, what would you tell this guy?
Honestly, I would ask him, how much? How much? Because just like we've seen with the city of LA, we've seen with the state of California, they're making laws and they're passing these decrees that seem to have nothing to do with the people's will. So to me, then how much did it cost? And if it costs that much, maybe you need to reconsider what you're doing and just let us know, hey, I have nothing against people doing what they're going to do. This is America. But be open and honest. Tell us how much. How much have you sold it for? Because if you have, then that way people know we're done, we're good, we can move on. But this is too much.
As Jesus said, right? What is it if a man gains the whole world and loses his own soul? We have to draw a line in the sand. It's here, protecting these children.
Any Disney cast members that are afraid to be bold, that are afraid to be courageous, stand up. It's okay. You're not alone.
Drew Hernandez here outside of the Disney HQ in Burbank, California, where protesters are protesting Disney's ridiculous stances that they've been taking, betraying their customer base that have family values. I'm actually here with a Disneyland cast member that is outspoken. What's the message?
The message is you shouldn't have to feel shame. You shouldn't have to be afraid to stand up and make your voice heard. I think it's that picture of Lambert the lion. We're that lion that's been bullied by the sheep to quiet our voice, but the time is now for the lion to rise up because there's a wolf trying to steal the sheep, and I can't stand for it anymore.
Absolutely, and I think you're inspiring a generation that goes beyond Disney, because so many people are afraid to come out and speak their piece or speak what they believe, to stand for righteousness because they don't want to get canceled. What would your message be, not only to people inside of Disney that feel the same way you do, but in other massive corporations that have this fear? What would your message be to them right now?
There's a line being drawn in the sand. There's no more gray area. You either take that stand for yourself and for the future of your generation, or you take a stand on the other side of history. If you want to have your freedom for the rest of your life, now is the time to stand up. Doesn't matter if you get canceled. Money is just energy. It's just currency. You can find another job. You'll find a community, and you'll find out that you're actually part of the majority. The silent majority needs to not be silent anymore. But we can be okay to agree, to disagree, but we can still take a stand.
Absolutely. What would your message be to parents right now that are sick of this? They are very concerned about this, and it breaks their heart that Disney is doing this. If Disney continues to double down, triple down, quadruple down, not give in on this and just continue to take this stance, what would your message be to parents moving forward? What do we do with Disney?
Cut them off. Hit them where it hurts with the money. Write letters, hit all the corporation points, and then just cut them off. Stop going. Stop subscribing, stop watching, stop clicking, don't read the magazines, don't go to the stores.
I'm here with one of the protesters with his daughter. Dad, what's the message today? What's on your heart?
The message is for Americans to wake up, and not just here in Burbank, not in California, but all around the world. We need to fight for our children. We cannot put them through this sexual education misidentification. They're children. Let them be children. Let them be raised without any of that stuff because we don't need it. God didn't give us that stuff. He gave us children to raise and to procreate and to move on and keep moving. So that's what we need. We need to make sure Disney just comes back and just gives programming that actually is worth something, and not just to the few percentage, but to the whole people.
And I'm going to leave you guys with this one thing alone. Jesus made it very clear. This is the God that I serve. If anybody causes one of these little ones that believes in me to stumble, let a millstone be tied around their neck and thrown into the ocean. Is that too radical for you? I'm not saying we should go out and start killing people. What I'm saying is have the heart of the Lion of Judah and aggressively defend your kids.
Absolutely. You are starting to see an awakening because people's children are being targeted and they're not going to be sexualized. This is not left-leaning. This is not right-leaning. This is an evil agenda that's targeting little kids, and they think they can get away with it because they have billions of dollars. They're a massive corporation, and they could just do and say and get behind anything they want. But you are watching families. You saw a father. You see little kids. You see Christians. You see humanity standing up against an evil agenda. So shout out to the crew that was with me yesterday. Ian, the great Ian, put that video together, and Kelsey producing the whole thing. But we have, joining me now, the great Sean Feucht. He is the organizer that put this together. He's all over the place. Sean, thank you for joining me today, brother.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Man, I am so stoked. Thank you for having me out there yesterday. We love what you're doing. I mean, we see, just personally being, I was a youth pastor for a while, and one of the biggest frustrations I ever had was the church not stepping up and engaging such evil, demonic, satanic agendas in the name of, I don't want to get political. So my hat goes off to you, brother, because you are standing in the gap. We are facing open pedophilia being normalized in something like Disney. What's inspiring you? Obviously, we know the simple question to that, but what's really driving you right now to stand up and stand in that gap right now?
I think it hits close to home for me because I have 4 kids, and everything changes when you become a parent, and this is frequently what happens. I was doing mission work all over the world and really not even focused on America, but the moment that I started having kids and starting to realize the culture they're growing up in, the climate they're growing up in, how things like Disney and other woke corporations affect them, and what's happening in the school system, and all this kind of stuff, you start to really become awake, because your primary role as a parent is to be a protector, is to be a steward. And so for me, it's really personal, and it means something to me. That's why I had my daughter on there last night, praying. And because to us, this is a family thing. It's a fight for the family. It's a fight for the innocence and the purity of our kids. And so it does not get more personal than this.
Absolutely, Sean. I think a lot of people, when we have like the biblical faith conversation, right? There's a lot of people that are watching what's happening unfold in their country. They're watching what's happening unfold throughout the world. They see these evil agendas just right out in the open. And some people may not believe in God. They're like, I don't think the Bible's valid. I don't think Jesus was real. But they're seeing real evil out in the open in real time. What would your message be to, I guess we could say, unbelievers that are seeing this stuff and they're kind of like starting to wake up and they're like, there's something to this. What's happening to my world? What's happening to my country? Disney is defending pedophiles. What would your message be to those people asking those questions?
Yeah, I mean, we're just asking for decent, basic human beings. Yes, last night we had a ton of believers there, Bible-believing Christians. We had pastors and stuff, but I think you have to be pretty deranged if you're not a normal human that isn't alarmed at this point. When you have corporations like Disney, it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to introduce characters and do the things that we've been doing. A lot of people said they've been doing this for years. It's another thing to openly fight against laws aimed to protect our kids. And this is what's so wild to me. I mean, this is what's so brazen about what they're doing, is they're not just creating their own content and doing their own thing. And we know what's behind that now with all the leaked audio and video, but they're openly attacking laws that protect our children. That to me, I mean, you don't, and the polling is clear. The consensus, national consensus is clear. People don't want this crap taught to their kids. They don't want their 4-year-olds and their kindergartners learning about transgenderism and 86 genders. They don't want those conversations to be replaced. That should be with the parents, with the teachers. So in my estimate, I mean, yes, there's a Christian component and a biblical component, but there's a human decency component here as well.
100%. Sean, you have this parental take right now, and I think it's so important to continue to hit on. There are parents watching this stuff. There are parents, moms, dads that are seeing this, and a lot of people are so afraid, Sean. A lot of people are so afraid to come out and just say what's right because they're afraid of getting canceled or they're afraid of getting fired. And this is not a political issue, Sean. What would your encouragement, your word of exhortation be right now to parents out there that are seeing this and they're like, you know what, I am sick of being afraid. I'm ready to draw that line in the sand. What would your message be to them?
My message would be go and watch what happened last night. Realize that there are more that are for you that are against you. Realize that there's a whole army of people. And I mean, listen, you were there. Hundreds of people showing up at 6 p.m. in Burbank with LA traffic on a weekday. It's hard to get there. It's hard to park. People drove from as far away from San Diego to where you came from. I mean, people came from all over. That's only the beginning, man. I mean, we started a pledge called parentsfightback.com, which all you guys, whether you're parents or not, you need to sign it. Parentsfightback.com. I think we have up to almost 40,000 people that have signed that. Our goal is to get to 100,000. Parentsfightback.com. Go there, sign the petition. But my encouragement is to realize, hey, listen, you are not isolated. You're not alone, and you're not weird. The majority of Americans are with you. The majority of people think this is psycho, and you're going to start to see an uprising of people. And, like Billy Graham said, the courage is contagious. When one man takes a stand, the spines of everyone else are stiffened. And that's what you saw last night. That's what you're going to see next week. We're already working on going to Anaheim, to Disneyland. We're working on Orlando. Like, this train is just going to build.
Well, you know what, Sean? We will track it with you. We're going to be with you guys, whatever we can do here at Turning Point to support you, because this has to do with the children. The great Sean Feucht, thank you so much for joining me today, brother. Stay safe out there. I will see you soon.
All right, brother. Thank you.
All righty, there he goes. All righty, ladies and gentlemen, isn't it crazy? Like, Disney's trying to cancel. I mean, they are. Disney, when you go to Disneyland, they're like pulling away saying, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. When they make their announcements before the fireworks or any of their shows, they're not saying that anymore because no one can misgender anybody. They just got to call them people or whatever Disney, who knows what they want to do. But the main issue here is little kids being sexualized by a massive corporation that has billions of dollars, that has massive power, that has the ability to propagate millions of minds, sexualize millions of minds of little kids. You see, this is where the line has to be drawn. Doesn't matter how much money these people have. Doesn't matter how much power these people have. This is humanity. These are human beings. Mama bears, papa bears, individuals that are sanely thinking in the mind, that see this and see that this is terribly wrong. This is going in a terrible, depraved, disgusting direction. Of all people, Disney, they've had their problems with pedophiles in the past, but now it's out in the open and they double down and they defend it. They are opposing laws that are meant to protect children. I don't know how much more clear we can make this to anybody watching right now that this is not okay. This is not a political issue. I don't care what your politics are. I don't care if you've been identifying with the right your whole life. I don't care if you've been identifying with the left your whole life. If you cannot get behind protecting the innocence of a child, something is miserably and terribly wrong. Not with me, not with Sean, not with TPUSA, not with anybody speaking out against this. No, there's something miserably wrong with you. My name is Drew Hernandez. These are the Front Lines, and TPUSA Live starts right now.
Well, that's why you got to love Drew Hernandez, right? He's not only in studio, he's going out there to LA to make sure he's standing up for parents and all those kids out there. But once again, welcome to TPUSA HQ in Phoenix, Arizona. This is what we're covering today on TPUSA Live. First, PragerU's Will Witt is going to be back. He's joining us to discuss BLM using donations to buy a $6 million mansion in LA. And some more LA news. They're banning official travel to Florida and Texas, and more in the Daily Briefing. Next, we'll introduce TPUSA's new initiative, Rise of the Citizen, supporting everyday citizens fighting for the culture war. Then another edition of the Professor Watchlist. And finally, we'll discuss the toxic effects of radical feminism in our schools and society, followed by Speaker Pelosi testing positive for COVID. And one last thing. Buckle up. TPUSA Live from HQ starts right now.
Authentic, unfiltered, grassroots content and conversation every weekday. Live from Phoenix, Arizona at the Turning Point USA headquarters, this is TPUSA Live.
Well, like I was saying, Drew Hernandez he's everywhere, people. He's over there hosting Frontlines, and you're in LA, and then now you're here on the couch. Is there anything you can't do, Drew?
It's a teleportation device. You guys should, get one.
I need to get one of those. Do you know Elon or something?
Maybe.
Ooh, I like it. We also got Tanya Prasovic. Welcome.
Hi, thank you guys so much for having me. Sorry, Jack is out today. He's on daddy duty. I'm filling in for him today.
We got the better half, so I think we like it. And then we also got Madison McClean,
Yes.
TPUSA employee.
Yes, thank you so much for having me today. It's my first time on the couch, so I'm super excited to be here.
And then your first time on the couch too,
It
right?
is,
You've been on
yes.
virtually, but this is great.
Congratulations.
And then I know join us in just a second, we're going to have PragerU's Will Witt. We have to talk about what's going on with BLM. But we're going to talk to him about that. But first, Judge Kentaji Brown Jackson has been confirmed. Is that the first woman who can't define a woman that's not a biologist on the Supreme Court?
Well, apparently she's the first black person on the Supreme Court. That's news to me. They just erase all other history, but I mean, that's what they
That's
do.
kind of the face I make that we have on the screen when somebody says this is the first black person. It's like Clarence Thomas,
They
people.
just redefine history. You know?
But we got Will Witt on the line. Let's talk about BLM using donations to buy fat mansions in LA. Will, how you doing?
Good, guys. How you guys doing?
Just living the dream. Tell us a little bit about your neck of the woods, LA. They spent $6 million, BLM Incorporated, to buy this mansion that is now like a campus for creative thought and pushing the movement forward.
Yeah, what I find very interesting is that many conservatives are shocked by this. I mean, I read this headline that made perfect sense. This is what Marxists do. This is what communists do. They redistribute the wealth, as they say, but they only do it to themselves. So they take all these millions of dollars of donations from people who think that, they're helping black people, they're assuaging racism in this country, and then they use it to buy themselves things that make their lives better, and the other people suffer and nothing gets done. I would like to ask a lot of Black Lives Matter people. It'd be interesting to do a man on the street video or whatever it is and go and ask Black Lives Matter and say, what have you actually gotten done? They'll probably say awareness or something like that, something that is intangible to be able to be shown. But I would like to know what they have actually done other than buy houses for themselves.
And then another piece of news that was coming out, Will, was this house was over 250% over market value. This was purchased for $1.3 million in October of 2020, and then now it gets purchased for $6 million. So it seems like they just wanted it. They duped people into spending millions of dollars on this bogus push in organization, and then they're just like, all right, we got the money, we'll just throw it out there.
Right. Well, it doesn't mean anything to them. They don't have to make these promises and actually follow through on them. They can just tell people that we are solving racism. It's like the NFL, if you remember, they said they're going to spend $250 million to solve racism. What does that actually mean? You can get all of this money and go and say you're going to do all these things, but nothing ever happens. I mean, look at the amount of money that's being spent on homelessness in Los Angeles by the government. I mean, I think it's up to $12 billion this last calendar year that they put towards homelessness. And how much money did they give small businesses that were affected by COVID lockdowns? I mean, it was in the tens of thousands. It's not even comparable of the amount of money. But obviously, just throwing money at a problem doesn't help it. And that's exactly what Black Lives Matter tries to do.
Hey, Will, Drew here, man. Hey, I had actually a really good question. I wanted to get your take on this. I mean, being involved with Prager, very educational based, what has your experience been, like really talking with people on the ground or talking with people that disagree with you? I mean, we love your content. We're always watching your videos. Are we seeing more people like wake up when they see this stuff? Like, yo, I'm being lied to here. Like, this is a neo-communist organization that is just taking my money, stuffing it in their pockets. Are we seeing people wake up, like predominantly in California, in LA?
Well, first of all, I don't think a lot of people actually hear the information. Oh, am I still on the screen the right way? I'm not sure. There's another thing going on.
We can still hear you, Will. We got you.
Okay, gotcha. I don't know. It's hard to tell because you talk to so many people, and a lot of people say, yeah, I saw that, but even though I don't support the organization, I still support the movement, Black Lives Matter. That's kind of the thing, is that people don't want to sound like, oh, I don't think Black lives don't matter. So they're fine maybe calling out segments of the organization and saying, yeah, they bought the house, that's not good. They haven't really done much, that's not good. But the message of Black Lives Matter, I have to stand by that. Because even if the people who are in charge of it are terrible, terrible people, they still have to say that they love Black Lives Matter, because if they don't, they're a racist. So the social pressures on saying that they still support Black Lives Matter, even if they're pieces of garbage, it's very strong.
Well, Will, we definitely appreciate all the work you do, and we would love to have you on. Maybe after you do a little man on the street, getting to the bottom of it, and hopefully people regretting their support for BLM. But also, too, congrats on getting engaged. I didn't tell you that last time you were on. Big time news there.
Thank you.
Will, congratulations. If she has a sister, let me
man.
know, Will. I think that would be a huge help.
If she has a sister, well, she has a brother, so you never know.
But congratulations. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Another piece of news I do want to hit on in the daily briefing is Los Angeles is banning official travel to states like Texas and Florida amid their LGBTQ policies. So what does that mean? So obviously there's taxpayer dollars that go to state officials to go visit those states. And then now they're saying we don't like what the Don't Say Gay bill is doing, which is not what it's called. And gays, once again, not in the bill whatsoever. They're banning that travel. What do you think, Tanya?
I guess that's just great news for Florida and Texas. Congratulations, guys. Couldn't hear anything better.
Yeah, I love to. Like, when I first moved here from California, everyone's like, don't California my Arizona. And then I'm sure some of these people are just like, well, some of the state officials are the worst Californians, so I definitely don't want them
And from
here.
what I hear, there's so many people moving to Florida, really trying to get there, and a similar situation with Texas. So I don't think they'll be missing a lot of those California dollars.
No, I don't think so either. But hey, after the break, we got a little message about YWLS. We're going to talk about Rise of the Citizen, the biggest nationwide campaign that TPUSA has ever had. We'll be back in just a second.
And I hope you're filled with courage and conviction, clarity, and a little bit of wisdom. Know that we at Turning Point USA, we have your back.
All right, welcome back to TPUSA Live. We got Tanya, Madison, Drew. I'm John. We got to talk about Rise of the Citizen, brand new nationwide campaign, the biggest one TPUSA has ever done. And what TPUSA does so well, Drew, is making sure that people have the tools and resources and they're equipped to fight back against the culture war that we're in. Because it's people like you, you're in studio, you're going to Disneyland, and you're going to tell people and talk to people about what you can do. So you can help us out if you go to tpusa.com/rise. You're going to get things in this kit like exclusive TPUSA Rise of the Citizen content. You're going to get a lot of powerful stories and exclusive content. Plus, you can get a fresh t-shirt. We always love those. You can do that. But here's a video to get you hyped up about that.
You need to not care what they call you when you say something that is true.
No more mandates, no more indoctrination. We are going to love America again. 2022 will be the year of the citizen.
Amen to that. And we have a lot of citizens and we have a lot of students that have done a good job fighting back. Before we bring in a chapter president from Lionship High School, Lyons Township High School, excuse me. What does this kind of mean to you, Madison, when you have the whole company right here working together to make sure, like, it's not just us at HQ that want to fight back. We want to get all you guys on board. Join Turning Point USA. Let's fight back.
Yeah, no, I think it's just such a wonderful opportunity, and I think it's important that we all realize that no matter how big or how small our audience might be, we can all just make a huge impact on this culture war that we're fighting. And so Turning Point USA leading the charge in that and making students feel empowered and just equipped to go about doing that in a daily basis and on their college campuses, wherever they might be, just knowing that they can make an impact at the end of the day, I think is going to be really empowering, and I'm excited to see it all play out.
And someone that's making a huge impact is Leslie Mendoza. She's one of many chapter presidents from across the country that have decided, I'm going to stand up against my school board and I'm going to tell you like it is. Leslie, how you doing?
I'm good, John. How are you?
I'm living the dream, always. It's good to be here. It's good to get this campaign off the ground. But what was your first initial thoughts? Because I think we need a lot more Leslie Mendozas that can go up to their school board and tell them this is wrong and this is what we need to do to fix it.
Absolutely. So my chapter proposal to my school actually got denied twice now. And my initial thought was there has to be a loophole somewhere. So I got my team together and we actually looked at the entire list of school clubs that have been approved by my administration. And we have found other partisan clubs. And the one reason that our club proposal was denied was because they claimed Turning Point USA to be a partisan organization when legally we're not. So when they heard this, I immediately took action. I got my team together and found that there were actually clubs that were partisan. And it seemed like just because we were conservative students, they didn't want us on campus.
And then too, I do want to show this video of you, Leslie, because I definitely try to summon a little bit of you when I'm talking to people on the other side of the aisle about this stuff. But school board meetings is something that we've been encouraging people to go to, whether you're a student, a parent, or just a part of the community. We're going to show you this video. We're going to get a nice little reaction from the couch. Let's check it out.
I don't understand why you don't trust the parents.
Sir, please let her speak.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Leslie Mendoza. I'm a senior and the president of the Turning Point USA chapter here at LT. Turning Point USA is a nonprofit organization that focuses on teaching students about the benefits of the free market, limited government, the principles of freedom, and American values in general. Most kids my age don't learn those anymore. Earlier this year, on January 3rd of 2021, my executive team began the process of starting this new club here at school. Unfortunately, as expected, we received immediate backlash from the community, and our fellow classmates made it clear that they would not tolerate our chapter on campus. In the months following the submission of our proposal, a group of students who called themselves Concerned Students anonymously created a petition on change.org to keep hateful organizations out of Lyons Township High School. The group received 600 signatures from students and community members within 3 months.
Leslie, there's nothing like hate, expressing hate by just shutting down someone else that they disagree with, right? I mean, these people are the ones that really hate. They're the ones that don't want any type of opposition. I'm curious, now that you're continuing to push forward, you're not letting these people shut you up. What's the response been like from your peers, like your classmates? Like what's going on at school? What's going on at school?
So they continue to try to keep us off campus, but I found out who the leader of this group was, and I've actually gone to them and asked them and invited them to come to our chapter meetings and events, and have never gotten a response from them. And they're just not willing to interact with us at all, and they won't take the time to look into what the chapter is actually like. And they don't know what Turning Point USA actually stands for. It's just simply because they're uninformed and they choose to be uninformed.
Yeah, that would be my follow-up question then, is because it seems like a lot of people just don't even want to have discussions anymore. Agreeing to disagree is a thing of the past, it seems like, especially on high school and college campuses across the country. But you've also received a lot of support from big-time people across the country. You got honored at Mar-a-Lago. Tell us about that experience.
Absolutely. So this past December, I got an invitation where I received Turning Point USA's first ever Campus Warrior Award. And I had the privilege of visiting Mar-a-Lago and joining contributors and Turning Point USA supporters from all over the country. And it was just an incredible experience and such an honor and a privilege. But I got the opportunity to sit in a Turning Point USA investor meeting where I got to see the behind the scenes of what's going on in the organization and the goals and what we want to accomplish moving forward. So it was just an amazing opportunity. And it was because of an amazing donor that we have at Turning Point USA that they really wanted to recognize some students that were going above and beyond to spread the message of Turning Point.
And why does this mean so much to you? Because we need a lot of more Leslie Mendozas out there. We need people that are going to stand up. We need students. We need parents. We need people in the community. How do you think this new campaign that we're putting together is going to help people do that, Leslie?
I think it's just going to hopefully empower students that are my age. I'm 18 years old, and I think moving forward, if it's students like my age that don't take action, we're unfortunately going to be the ones that are going to be dealing with the consequences. And obviously, it's not what we want to do because the way that our nation is going now, it won't be too good for us.
Yeah, and that's why we got to appreciate everything that you're doing, and then even just starting this too. Once again, everybody that's just tuning in, you got the biggest campaign we've ever put together. You can go to tpusa.com/rise. A lot of people worked really hard behind the scenes. Just even the people that you've met at Mar-a-Lago, you met at the investor retreat, we've gotten to hang out with you too. And once again, I know I say this all the time, some of the most inspirational people during these campaigns is students like you. Like, I'll go to events and we have some of the biggest speakers. Like, we just showed a little promo video of YWLS. There's incredible speakers, but some of the most impactful conversations I've had and stories I've heard are from students like you. And do you think that there's going to be more students that are going to be able to stand up like you, or maybe even other students on campus specifically?
There absolutely will. Students are starting to reach out and inform themselves about what's really going on because they realize how important it is. And just out of the love of our country, people want to preserve the values that this nation was founded on. And I think it's amazing because it's something that we want to preserve for future generations.
And then what's your final word for us? Maybe a little word of encouragement for all the students and everybody that put this campaign together, Leslie, to fight back?
I would say don't let them discourage you. They'll do every single thing to get you off of your goals, and it's definitely worth it. The disrespect and the hate might be a little discouraging at first, but it's totally worth it, and don't lose hope.
Amen to that. Leslie, thanks so much for joining us. Everybody, we're going to break down a little bit more of what's going on with this new campaign we have going on. So, like I said before, you can get some exclusive footage. Like, there's people like Leslie Mendoza. There's other students and parents around the country that are speaking up to their school board. You're going to get some of that content as well. Never before seen stuff. And then you're going to get some information materials. Because once again, just like so many people we've had on the couch here, they're like, I want to fight back, but I don't really know how to do it. Like, how do I speak to other people? How do I maybe bring up stats while trying to understand people's emotional attachment to what's going on here? And I mean, I think that's something that you do a good job, Tanya, is like having conversations with other people. You have to tap into that emotion a little bit, but with the help of TPUSA, it's like, here's the tools, here's how you can have those conversations and make a difference wherever you're at.
I cannot agree more. We often talk with students outside of the TPUSA events, and one of the questions that we get asked the most is, where do we begin? Mm-hmm. How do we start? Who do we talk to? What is this first person that we need to have a conversation with in order to get this jump started, have this big idea that I have, and put it in all into good use? So this sounds like such an amazing campaign, and I'm super excited for all the college students who now will have amazing tools at their disposal firsthand to be able to do and inspire others like Leslie does, and do some great things with it.
And once again, too, before we head to break, so you can subscribe. Make sure you subscribe. You can donate there. You're going to get the exclusive content. You're going to get some powerful stories, informational materials. You'll get a T-shirt, everything you could ever want to fight back against the craziness that's going on in our culture war and fighting against, you know, companies like Disney, Drew.
Yep.
do that. So go to tpusa.com/rise and sign up and subscribe today. We got a message from Patriot Mobile, then we'll be back for the newest edition of Professor Watchlist.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now, more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies who fight for our rights and our beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to our causes, and with your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. I'm Jon Root, Drew Hernandez, Tanya Posobiec. We got Madison, McClean. Before we get into the newest edition of the Professor Watchlist, once again, people make it because they're the worst. We got crazy professors all across the country. We definitely got one out of UC Berkeley. But before we get into that, I do have a question for you, Madison.
Sure.
Everybody wants to know, like, how do I get involved with not only campaigns like the Rise campaign, but working for TPUSA?
Yeah.
Like, you're one of the newer employees here, and talk about the culture a little bit and kind of what attracted you to joining TPUSA.
Yeah, so I was first approached by Turning Point USA back in 2017, actually, when I was a freshman in college. And I was fortunate enough to have the experience of starting a chapter at my college. And so that was just such a wonderful experience. And it exposed me to the fruits of being a part of an organization like this, where there are so many like-minded individuals who are there to support you and encourage you in college, where oftentimes our conservative beliefs and ideologies are stifled by our professors and our peers. And so just feeling empowered by that community was really something special. And so now that I'm here and I'm working full time, it's just been affirmation after affirmation from the Lord that I'm supposed to be here and that He has just something so much greater in store for all of us here at Turning Point USA, that we can come together and coalesce around a common ideology and belief and just a common goal at the end of the day that I feel like so many kids and so many parents and grandparents even are looking for ways to, like you were talking about earlier, just jumpstart that trajectory into fighting this culture war. And so Turning Point USA has just provided me with so many invaluable resources to be able to do that. And so I'm very grateful to be here.
Well, we're definitely glad that you're here, not only on the couch, but at HQ working with us. Did you have any crazy professors at college, like anything that stood above the rest?
Yeah, I did have a really crazy professor, actually. It was an intro to communications class, and I was given the assignment of doing a persuasive speech, as we all often are. And I decided to give a speech on the wage gap, and my professor didn't exactly like the angle I took with that one. So he failed me on the assignment, and I ended up getting a D in the class and had to redo it. But
it was nothing about like, oh, like you did a good job, like making eye contact, the way your body language was.
None of the typical criticisms for speeches, unfortunately, no. He didn't like the angle that I took, and so he failed me, and I luckily was able to get him removed from that campus. But yeah, so it was interesting. And as a college freshman, that was not the experience that I was anticipating my first semester of college.
Don't mess with Madison. I'm sure that just news just spread. Like, watch out, just working our way through communications classes. You're next. Right? But this first member of the Professor Watchlist, it's Hatem Bazinin. Hopefully I'm saying that right. He's a co-founder and assistant professor at Zaytuni College, which is the only accredited American college in which the curriculum is based on Islamic fundamentals. Bazine's resume is littered with anti-Semitic and pro-terror incidents, both on and off campus. You see him on the screen right now, and plain and simple, you can find some more information about this and other crazy professors at professorwatchlist.org. He hates Jewish people.
Jeez. And
something he's teaching a course about anti-Semitism, basically. And just I need to get your response from this quote. Get this, Drew. He said this about Jewish people. Lying has always been an intrinsic value among Zionist Jews. The mass media are controlled by Jews, and where big lies as such are converted into truths glorified by millions. The day of judgment will not. Trees and stones will say, "O Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind me. Come and kill him."
I just find it interesting, man. Like, you see this time after time after time, whether it's at a university or whether it's Hollywood or whether it's the music industry, these talking heads, they project. Everyone's a Nazi, right? The left is accusing everyone, even me. I'm brown. I'm not white like you guys. I get accused of being a white supremacist, the Nazi, like every day on Twitter. But these people project who they really are. They take what's inside of them and they paint it on you as you're the enemy. You're the Nazi. You're the Jew hater. You're the one that hates minorities. One that doesn't agree with anybody's opinions. But these people just project what's in their evil hearts all over everybody else. They just vomit this stuff on people. And it's just, yeah, it's cringe, it's ridiculous, but it is evil at the end of the day because these people have some seriously wrong, evil ideas.
And then, too, there's no logical argument to what he's bringing up, or basically a lot of other professors on campuses. So he was trying to say the school newspaper is infiltrated by Jewish spies, and he allegedly denied Jewish students jobs while serving as a student body president, things like that. He's not even giving opportunities, and he's trying to dumb it down to, well, I don't like that, so they're probably just Jewish spies.
And to think that someone like that is viewed as the top academic professional who is supposed to be teaching high standards, value, and morals. This is just speaks volumes to the broken system that we have at our universities, on college campuses. And for somebody who came from Eastern Europe, who has seen the history of the concentration camps right on the territory of where I grew up, and hearing the heartbreaking stories and listening to the absolute insanity of the professor is so disheartening and like could not be far from reality as it is, you know.
And then once again, too, high school campuses, even elementary schools and college campuses just don't seem to be a safe place for people at all. So if you're a Jewish person and you're on this campus and you hear about a professor like this at UC Berkeley, I mean, it's not surprising at UC Berkeley.
No.
But even if you kind of know what you're getting into, you need to be feeling safe on campus at very least, Madison.
Totally. And my concern is, where's the accountability for professors like this? Why isn't the rest of the school or the student body, why isn't somebody rising up and saying, hey, this is totally a logical fallacy here. Everything this guy is saying is completely incorrect. And so I'm just wondering where the accountability is and what can be done to keep this from happening on campuses across the country. It's insane.
It's a great question.
And clearly he has many controversial topics, so we're going to show this on the screen from this professor's Facebook, some of the things he was saying about Jews too. So if a movement is not controversial, if no one is mad, it's not strong enough, and it's not worth the fight, Israel will fall, #UCD divest. So he's, I mean, just even look at what that classroom looks like right now. He's saying that we need to move on Jewish people and basically call, like you talk about actual calling for violence. Drew, this is the kind of stuff, like people are off Twitter and they're off other social media platforms for way less and not even calling violence and actually not being hateful. But this is someone that people are spending tens of thousands of dollars to get educated.
Yeah, they're indoctrinators. These are evil people. I mean, I don't know if those were Palestinian flags. They looked like Palestinian flags, but I always thought it was interesting that these people on the left, like the woke, you know, like especially when we saw, you know, the continuation between Israel and Gaza that was happening a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden the left just jumps on being pro-Palestine, and these woke, the LGBT community is like, we're pro-Palestine. They're waving Palestinian flags, and it's like, do you guys understand like what these people believe? Like if you went to Gaza as a gay person, I don't think you would survive. Yeah. So it's interesting because that's part of the indoctrination. They use hate, they use emotional arguments, they get you emotionally invested to care about something without realizing what you're actually saying or believing. It's crazy. It's not education at all. It's propaganda.
And then too, I'm sure like going through your college classes and you have a professor, it's like, all right, well, I just presented what I think to be facts here about the wage gap. So like, you got to tell me what's not true about this.
Right.
And then you as a professor here, Bayesian, needs to say, you know, why is this actually helpful? Why is this actually education? Believe what you want to believe, but inside this classroom, I should be taught and I should not be indoctrinated.
Right. Right, and I think that there's just something to be said for people who go to the lengths that they go to teach and to indoctrinate their students with this kind of material. It just speaks to a whole nother level of evil that I think
they're building up extremists. It seems like that's what he's trying to do.
Exactly.
And then the other
they do go to protest and wave up signs, "Death to America." They literally do. It's going beyond indoctrination. These are doctrines of demons that are causing people to just be openly violent and openly willing to hurt someone they disagree with. This is why we saw the race riots. This is why we saw that in 2020. This is why if someone goes to Portland right now with a MAGA hat on and announces they're there, all of Antifa is going to flock there and bash them in the skull. This starts with ideology and it turns into dangerous, violent acts. And I think people need to seriously understand this. It's happening in these universities, and then it goes into the real world. What was the other story you guys covered the other day where it was some woke nurse that got offended because she got made fun of because of her pronoun badge?
And then missed the veins on purpose.
Yes, she decided to prick him with a needle because she was offended. You see what I'm saying? Like, this goes across the board, whether it's in healthcare, politics, education. Like, it turns into people getting hurt because they disagree with you or you hurt their feelings.
Right.
And then the crazy part is people will post that on TikTok and expect to be like, yes, this is my platform where people can actually support me. Like, they're going to, that's another we don't like echo chambers. That seems to turn into an echo chamber where it's like, good for you, fight the power kind of situation. The other professor we have that made the Professor Watchlist this week on TPUSA Live is Raman Grossfugel. He's an associate professor at Chicano and Latina Studies at the University of California, Berkeley. So according to his university biography, he also specializes in decoloniality and the study of Islamophobia. Also, he could probably use a bath and a shave, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Could you imagine showing up to class that day and be like, is there a homeless guy here? Like, I mean, that's the first thing I'd think about.
I've seen basketball shorts, I've seen basketball jerseys, but I have not seen anything like that before, that's for sure.
But he's also been a notable opposition to the state of Israel and support of BDS, so that's boycott, divestments, and sanctions. It's a Palestinian extremist group, so this is another person on campus that is making sure that they are promoting the idea of death to Jews, that I am pro-Palestine, and at the same time, Charlie Kirk is being turned away at campuses. You have other conservative voices like, no, we want them there. And people like Leslie Mendoza, no, we can't have a TPUSA. Yeah, you guys are hateful. You guys are crazy. Like, how nuts is that, hearing stories like that, Tanya?
Well, I tend to always look for the good in people. And but there's also saying that if you wait long enough, the person will surprise you. So seeing a professor like this and listening to the agenda they have just makes me wonder what have happened in their life that made them stick to this agenda and decide this is what I want to do for a living, this is my goal, and this is the what I want to be known for, by promoting those hateful ideas, by indoctrinating those young students into absolute, just, I'm even at a loss, trying to find what, because it's so sad to even see it happening. We actually, we visited Israel on our honeymoon, and
Jack was actually showing me pictures of that earlier today.
To Palestine. We crossed the actual border crossing where you have to get in. We just wanted to see the city of Bethlehem, and we happened to get there not in the broad daylight, but closer to the evening as the day went on, and we saw with our own eyes what was happening in the cities, and it didn't feel as safe as many professors would try to picture and everything. And we actually did speak with a lot of the common folk working right at the little shops. So we actually got to hear the real story and not the nonsense that those professors are pushing.
The final thing I'll say about this professor is he claims that Jews clinically bring up the Holocaust just to try to get some sympathy so they can commit atrocities against Arabs. These are the people that are teaching your kids. This is UC Berkeley. This is different colleges across the country. You can go to ProfessorWatchlist.org. to get some more information about that. But speaking of UC Berkeley, as we wrap this up, you're heading to UC Berkeley, right?
Yeah, we're having some issues down there. Charlie's going to be there next on the 13th. They're doing the Educate, Don't Mandate tour. And our one of the chapters on campus has been putting up flyers, and they're trying to promote the event. And it seems like every single day, the opposition, these leftists, these woke-tards on campus are tearing down their flyers. They're harassing the chapter students. So I myself am going to go down there on the 13th, and I'm going to expose these people. I'm going to have some conversations with the people.
Amazing.
And ask them, why are you doing this? And we'll see how it goes.
Drew Hernandez on the front lines again. Can't wait for that. Definitely best of luck out there at UC Berkeley.
safe.
Coming up next, definitely stay safe. Coming up next, we're going to talk about radical feminism. We'll have Lily Stanley back on the couch to talk about that. We're going to be back in less than a minute.
All right, guys, you have signed up, right? You've joined freedomsquare.com. If you haven't, why not? This should have happened a decade ago. How did somebody not think of this earlier? If you're a business owner, we have a business directory to promote your business to patriots across the nation. So if you want to buy American, if you want to sell American, we have a business directory. Whatever it is, go now.
Join us in the fight for freedom. Welcome to Freedom Square.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. It's Jon Root and the ladies. We got to talk about radical feminism because it's about time we had this conversation. I think there's going to be a lot of me sitting back and listening because I think every single one of you do a great job fighting against this absolute insanity that's on college campuses, in your workplace, and basically just media all over. Everyone's constantly like Charlie, he's off Twitter, and a part of that tweet was, where are the feminists?
Right.
Where are you? What are you doing to protect women in sports? What are you doing to protect women in every facet of society? But Lily, this is something that's spread across the country for like at least probably half a decade. That's really taken a hold of a lot of people.
Well, it's interesting. If you look at what's happened, the original feminist movement was very successful and very productive. You know, women got the right to vote. We became more equal in society, yada, yada, all the nonsense. Now we have the same women who fought for women to be able to play in sports to fight for men to be able to play in our sports. It's become a complete perversion of the feminist movement, and now it's regressive. It's hurting women. We no longer are able to get the same titles, the same pay, on the same team, the same positions, because we have biological males in our spaces, which I thought was the entire point of the feminist movement, if I'm not mistaken. So I find it atrocious, but nothing is new with the left. It's all the same. So it's going to end up really affecting us if we don't get more men to speak out against it. That's what I really want to see. All of us women can have this conversation all the time, but strong men protect women, especially from other men. And that is a space that I think men need to do better in.
That's what's always interesting to me when I'm interviewing people or we're chatting on the couch here. Specifically what I asked the founder of Save Women's Sports was, how do you encourage men to come alongside here? Because for me, I mean, it's going to be the same with the abortion topic. Like, I don't have a uterus, and I'm also I'm not a biologist, but I also know that I don't have a uterus. But I'm going to say, like, this is wrong. Like, we're standing up for the unborn. And then also, too, I'm not a female athlete, but I know that men like me should not be in women's spaces or women's sports at all. And then you have a professor like you had on your college campus where it's like, let's talk about the gender pay gap. Let's actually get to the nitty gritty here and understand, you know, where's that come from? It's not just, everyone wants to just blame this like patriarchy. But once you get down to the facts of it, I think people's eyes are finally open to see this is not a country that's just built on sexism.
Right. Right, and I think there is some hope to be gleaned from all of this. I was just reading an article this morning that was saying that there are women and these women's advocacy groups who are saying they feel abandoned by the Democratic Party and they feel abandoned by what the left is spewing at them because they just don't feel like they have a place in politics anymore and they don't feel like they have a home. They're kind of homeless politically is what they were saying. And so I think we are starting to see that tide turning a little bit in terms of how these social issues are dealt with, and I just hope that that continues, and I hope that there are brave men and brave women who do continue to fight for the just so special and unique differences that there are between men and women. Those are something to be cherished rather than torn down.
Yeah, well, I think that points out the difference between leftists and liberals. There's liberals who seem to be stepping back on this and saying, hold on, okay, I get the initial argument, I get what we were originally fighting for. Now it seems like it's become perverted.
Right.
I don't want biological males taking over the space of women. That's kind of the exact opposite of the point. And then you have the leftists who are in charge and instituting these policies at high levels that are the ones portraying this nonsense, who are, when you ask them enough questions, they're like, well, I don't even know what a woman is. It doesn't even matter. It can be whatever people want it to be. So when there's no back, when it doesn't stop at any point, anything goes. So I think that's where the left kind of has like a civil war happening, is because they're really starting to divide themselves. There's the true crazies from the little less crazies. So I'm hoping that bears some fruit. And it's very interesting. I know we were talking earlier about the difference between feminism here in America and feminism from where you come from. You want to talk about that?
Absolutely, yes. It seems like the West is making it more of a competition between a man and a woman, and somehow they have to be in this continuous war and try to see who is the strongest, the fastest, you know. In Eastern Europe, I feel like they embrace the whole meaning of the feminism being about femininity.
Right.
And they're teaching women that it's more about empowering and making the best of the great feminine qualities that you have, like encouraging women, becoming mothers, you know, and really exploring that, because there's absolute no better way to feel like a woman by becoming a mother.
Totally, absolutely, and that's been stomped all over in society now.
And somehow in the West, we are now promoting the strong feminine character, which is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Only it is being solely viewed as this female who needs to achieve every possible goal in her career, thus abandoning the idea of having a family of her own, abandoning the opportunity, because there's only a very short time frame that you could actually have a child. So by sticking to all the work goals and opportunities, you actually miss that window where, you know, you reach the 50, and not that you know, things could become possible, but there comes a point of time when you say, well, it's getting too late. And this is something that is really being, you know, misconstrued by the West, where they say that the strong female should be the complete figure against the male, instead of embracing
like she should be able to do absolutely everything a man can do.
You need to have an even stronger male to protect the female, and have him, you know, the man, stand up for females, saying, you know what, this is a female sport. Why are we having somebody who's not biologically, by a definition, you know, fight against biological females?
No, it's crazy. Now we need to go back to embracing traditional feminism, because that's really where our power
femininity
lies. Right, that's okay to be a mother. Now you're worshipped and celebrated and encouraged if you want to start an OnlyFans, but if you're 18 and say, I want to have a family, people look at you funny, and I think that's a cultural issue. And the left has done a great job winning that space and perverting the minds of women into taking on these traditionally masculine roles. It's funny, if you watch the feminists, what they're really trying to do is all this traditional masculine stuff. So they're acknowledging that there is a binary, okay? There is masculinity and femininity, and they've taken masculinity and made it toxic when it's essential, and they diluted femininity into nothing. It can be anything anybody wants it to be, and I take offense to that. I think
and
women
also
need
too,
to
as a
step
man,
into
like
those
I
roles.
take offense to that too, because you're feminizing men. Because like
It's
you
terrible.
need
It's a lose-lose.
like,
Nobody wins.
That's where you bring up femininity. Like you have so many weak men, and for me, I see this whole movement too. It's like I'm not trying to find success at the expense of women. You know, I think there's been so many influential women in my life that I love partnering with in order to grow in my faith, to grow in as a man, myself, and exactly, and that's what it is, and it's. You hit the nail on the head when it comes to this competition instead of working together. It's similar to just what's going on in society in general. Like everybody wants to put everybody in just like specific boxes. That's it. It's like if you're right or you're left, you guys can't work together. I don't even want to have a conversation with you. I don't even want to be able to find some sort of middle ground whatsoever. And with these things here, I see the downfall because men just are choosing not even to speak up. or they're becoming basically they're becoming women.
So submissive.
Too. Right. So it's
terrible. It's not
helping.
sustainable. It's an insult to humanity and to God's purpose, and it's an insult to women everywhere. We are going to be completely overlooked and end up back previous to the civil rights movement, previous to the 1990, all of it. We're going to go all the way back to where we're going to have to fight for basic rights because we can't consider any of our feminine attributes to be special anymore.
Right, and
I
I think
can't even define what a woman is.
Exactly,
Really?
and I think a huge source of this problem is this toxic boss babe culture that we're so entrenched in, where at the expense of motherhood and traditional values that are so wonderful and beautiful, we're elevating professionalism and success and things that are so futile at the end of the day. And I think we need to just bring ourselves back, understand that traditional Christian, family values are something that they work and they're the building blocks of society. There's something to be said about the relationships, having a healthy household relationship to creating a successful civil society. And I think we just need to come back to that understanding of traditional values taking the home.
Another narrative that you don't hear anymore is all these women that are freezing their eggs and sacrificing their birthright in order to have a job. There's so many of these ladies that end up feeling lied to about that entire process, and they feel like they never got all the information. Now the eggs aren't working, and now they're screwed, and they can't have babies, and they're 45, and they have lots of money, but they have no husband because they've just married their job essentially, and now they're not able to have kids, and they're saying, hold on, this was all a scam. I don't feel fulfilled in my soul. Well, maybe it's because that wasn't your calling. Maybe you were trying to fit the square peg in the round hole the entire time. Women need to come back to the basics and realize that there's fruit and value and beauty in embracing traditional feminism.
How do you do that as a mother then, Tanya? Because you got a couple little kids. You obviously got a great husband that is happy to be there with you alongside to make sure that the next generation knows the truth about this and knows how you can have, everyone likes to just, once again, put into boxes. You got specific roles. It's like, no, we should be able to come together and build up the next generation.
True, I have an amazing husband, and from the very beginning, when we were just dating, we had this conversation, and we already spoke about dividing responsibilities, and we were talking about our future life, and at the time, and it's something that we actually put into work right now as a husband and wife, where we divide our responsibilities. Jack, my husband, is being the head of the family. He is in charge of making a living, and right now our kids are at the age where they are going through the most vital age, where my presence is the most invaluable, and no babysitter, no daycare can make such an impact on them as I could as a mother. So I'm focusing on our boys while whenever I have any free time, if any, I help out Jack with some of the projects, and I do the budget in the family. So we found our strengths as any couple should, and we try to complement each other by working together as a team, because at the end of the day, no mother is supposed to raise a child on her own. No man is supposed to do all the things in life by himself.
Correct.
They are the best. And man and a woman make the best of themselves in life when they work as a team, when they find that perfect teammate and make it work as a couple together.
Amen.
That's the whole core.
Yeah, it's hard enough when you're trying to do it right. So don't try to do it wrong. It's going to be even worse.
Oh, you do many wrongs, but
I'm honored to
every
hear
day
that.
you start from the beginning and you try to do it better.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it great every time. Just try to do it a little better.
Oh, that's awesome. Beautiful.
Well, you two are built on a solid foundation. Though there's so many people that they're going to let the world tell them, what is empowering, what you should be looking for in a significant other, what feminism is. It just seems like it's constantly changed. It's constantly moldable, but you have a foundation in your faith too that you.
Core true values, they've never changed. They've always been the same. They worked for centuries.
Right.
Why try to reinvent something that's been so successful?
Yeah. Well, it's a fundamental difference with the left. They think that values and morality changes over time. That's what they say about the founding fathers. They face different issues than we do today. False. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything is the same. The solutions are the same to all the problems. If you get back to traditional values, things will work. It's the way it goes.
Yeah.
And then why do you think something like YWLS is so important, Madison? Because we can have plenty of these conversations. Every single one of you share this on your social media. You've been on podcasts, you've been on pieces of content. But when we actually get thousands of women together to fight back against radical feminism, how important is that?
Oh, it's just vitally important. I attended YWLS as an attendee, and now I get to do it as staff, which is so awesome. But I just remember going into those events feeling so empowered and united, being around 3,000 plus women all at the same time who are like-minded and who are looking for the same thing at the end of the day and who are there under one common mission. And there's just something so powerful and uniting, being together and being surrounded by women who are after, you know, looking for marriage and looking for just having just the ability to have a successful career, but also looking for those traditional values and wanting to do something to impact the community around them and fight for those at the end of the day, because that voice is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so we need women like those who will be in attendance at this year's YWLS, which is going to be awesome. But we need more and more women to speak up for these values, because it's getting harder and harder every day to see the beauty of them.
And if you want to learn some more about this and get the tools and resources to fight back against radical feminism, definitely follow all these ladies. That is for sure. And then we obviously got some great contributors that speak against radical feminism all the time. But you can go to tpusa.com/YWLS and use promo code Jon. Use a dude's promo code, Jon.
Or Alex, or Isabel, or Morgan, or Aaron, or Kendall, or Jordan.
Or Jon. Here's a message from Patriot Mobile. We'll be back for one last thing.
Yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
Abortion, I salute you! Women, if you need an abortion, get one! You said police defund!
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on to the next generation. Activate freedom. Join Patriot Mobile.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. Once again, it's the ladies and Jon here. We got Madison, Tanya, Lily, and of course, I am Jon. We're going to talk about one last thing. So Speaker Pelosi has contracted COVID.
Dun, dun, dun. Uh-oh.
Thoughts and prayers for her. But so she tested positive for COVID, according to her office, marking the first time that she's had COVID since the 2 years of talking all this strict lockdown and everything.
I bet she's still just so thankful that she was vaccinated, though. Because if she wasn't
How many
vaccinated,
shots did she get?
14. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
This cannot be true.
No, who knows? It doesn't matter. She still got it.
At least she was able to get her hair done, too. I mean, goodness.
At least
That's
she's
true.
looking good.
I think we do have a photo of her in the hair salon. There she
it
is.
is.
Man,
oh my God! I'll never forget when then she demanded an apology from the shop owner for hosting her, because she felt manipulated, as if she didn't know exactly what she was doing. Anyways,
she probably
I digress.
made the appointment.
Nancy Pelosi is just some different type of beast. Crazy.
How much does this infuriate you when you see people like Speaker Pelosi that are just touting nonsense all the time for like 2 years straight, and then now trying to push support for Ukraine while so many people are paying for more at the pump? And we had you on earlier when we were talking about soaring prices in the grocery store and empty shelves.
Empty shelves, yes. If anything, it makes me sad for all the people who listen to this nonsense and who believe it. Because there's some people, and I know those people, who have lost 2 years of their life, being terrified of this virus, completely missing an opportunity to spend time with their family, close family. Some grandmothers missed on seeing their grandkids growing up, the first vital years of their life, and then just having to being completely lied to, and then now being woken up to the reality that, well, guess what? You're still not immune to it, even after getting the vaccine, getting the shot after shot.
Right.
Well, how many shots is enough?
Yeah, and I feel like that's where you see people like this, and obviously, like, remember on the left when everybody was saying like, oh, anyone that's not wearing a mask or doesn't get the vaccine, I hope they die.
Right.
Like, just listen to us here talking about this on TPUSA Live.
Right.
We don't wish death on
Of course not.
anybody.
I hope she makes a stunning recovery. I really do. I mean, as anybody, but I mean, yeah, well, they're just vile. That's just how they really feel about us. We feel like they're wrong. They feel like we're bad. That's like a serious fundamental difference in the way that they look at us. And so they're going to espouse all that type of energy. And you're not going to hear any conservatives saying that about Nancy Pelosi. You won't. You just simply won't.
And then I know there was the viral video about Dr. Fauci, Lord Fauci, telling us that the best vaccine you can get is by contracting a virus. And then now here too, it's like you ask how many shots that Pelosi's gotten, none of them are as effective as actually getting the thing itself.
Right, right. And I find it very interesting that every time there's a resurgence of COVID or there's a new variant, Dr. Fauci will disappear for a while and then all of a sudden he reappears. It's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, do you think this might lead to, Lily, maybe pushing some more things on American people? It's like, oh man, I was able to avoid it for like so long. Maybe you do need to get another booster or something.
I'm assuming a new variant's going to come out in about the next 16 seconds because it's kind of dull in the news cycle lately. I mean, COVID is pretty much, in my opinion, I don't know, maybe we live in a different world, but it seems dead. It seems like, for the most part, people are going back to their lives. I still see randos driving with masks in their empty vehicle. It's super weird. But those are the types of people that are just going to be like that. But for the most part, I mean, we are hearing about airlines dropping flight mask mandates and that kind of stuff. So it seems like we are trending in a positive direction. They're losing their foothold, so they try to throw war at us. You know, they're trying to throw gas prices. Oh, by the way, you're going to have empty shelves. So they're trying really hard to find something to maintain that control over us. So I'm sure they're going to spark a new, hey, new mandates. By the way, you want to go back to school in the fall? Psych, you can't unless you're jabbed 9 times.
Right.
You know, it's just the way it goes.
They're trying to keep us afraid, and ultimately fear ushers in a path of tyranny. And so as long as they can keep control and keep a foothold on having people be afraid all the time, they're going to be able to achieve that tyrannical goal that they have. And so ultimately, as long as we can kind of coalesce around the idea that, hey, like, this is going away and there's nothing to be afraid of, then we can maybe, you know, see this through.
I mean, it's worth noting, once you give up those freedoms, you don't really get them back. It's very interesting. People don't realize what the problems of this whole 15 days to slow the spread. Look at, like you guys were mentioning earlier on the show, Texas is, they're restricting the flights to the places that they don't agree with. Okay, so now that's where we're at. It's now you can't travel places to people that we don't agree with. And that is a direct effect of this entire situation. So people don't realize how these situations just permeate throughout the rest of society. Once you give them that power, they're going to just use it to their disposal. So now, pretty soon, it's going to be, you can't travel to places who people in power that we just don't like. I mean, it doesn't matter anymore. It's whatever they want.
It's a slippery slope, for sure.
And when you talk about fear, there's so often that we'll drive by somebody, like Louie mentioned, and you see someone with a mask on, and you're just like, why are you doing this? And then you go to the gym. I asked somebody at the gym the other day, like straight up, I was like, I'm kind of sick and tired of, in my mind, being like, why in the world are you doing this? Like, so I'm like,
what is it?
I was like, straight up, what's up, bro? Quick question, like, no offense at all. I'm just actually just curious why you still wear a mask. And you could just tell, like, there's just like fear in his eyes. And just about everything. So he was just kind of trying to explain, like, you know, it kind of just makes me feel safe. And I think it's like the right thing to do. And we have to remember that we're in the news every day. We work for a political organization. So, like, we know the truth, and everybody should know the truth because it's been out there for a long time. And then especially too, like with the Fauci emails, with everything from the CDC, WHO, you're finally having officials and politicians that are saying like cloth masks don't work. But I think we have to have those conversations and like go about it in a way where it's like, I'm not going to go up and like, all right, idiot, what are you doing with a mask on at the gym? It's like, no, I'm actually curious. Like,
I absolutely
why are you
think
going
they need
about
to be
this?
confronted. Every time that we have a chance to in public, anytime someone asks me to put one on, I never did it without putting up a fight. I mean, I don't think we can, because then you get to this point where the goalpost gets moved so far. So you have to ask people. I asked a guy in the gym the other day, a precious black guy who was huge. I'm like, hey, by the way, it's now a form of white supremacy for you to be working out. Did you know that? And he's like, excuse me? Like, he had no idea what I said.
Here's the MSNBC article.
Yeah, you know these guys? This is what they're saying. How do you feel about that? And people just don't know these things. Conservative ideas are popular. They're just not widespread because we get blipped off the media media and looked down upon. So you have to have those conversations. Way to go, Jon.
Hey, appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, once again to our biggest campaign ever at TPUSA Rise campaign. We got that tpusa.com/rise. Make sure you donate. Be a part of that. It's awesome. It's almost been as awesome as hanging out with all these ladies.
Aww.
Madison, Tanya,
Thank
Lily,
you.
I'm Jon. Thanks so much. I'm not going to be here tomorrow, but have fun and tune in.
I will.
How much does the earth cost? I'm gonna buy the entire earth.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Human Events Daily, powered by Turning Point USA. Today's top stories: Atlantic writer Anne Applebaum refuses to address the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. We'll get into it next. Corporate media defending the grooming of children, and of course, pouncing on conservatives for smearing the left as pedophiles. We'll explain. Third, Shanghai residents rebel as cases surge and lockdowns are extended indefinitely. And finally, Kim Kardashian called out by yours truly over death penalty cases. We're going to get into this because it's blown up across the internet. All this and more ahead. Human Events Daily.
I'm Daniel Schmidt. I'm a freshman at the University of Chicago. My question is for Ms. Applebaum. Do you think the media acted inappropriately when they instantly dismissed Hunter Biden's laptop as Russian disinformation? And what can we learn from that in ensuring that what we label as disinformation is truly disinformation and not reality?
I mean, my problem with Hunter Biden's laptop is I think totally irrelevant. I mean, it's not whether it's disinformation or, I mean, I don't think the Hunter Biden's business relationships have anything to do with who should be president of the United States. So I don't find it to be interesting. I mean, that would be my problem with that as a major news story.
And I think we have run out of time.
An incredible video that came out of the University of Chicago where they're holding one of these neoliberal deep state disinformation conferences. So Anne Applebaum, a writer for The Atlantic, one of the chief architects of neoliberal propaganda, and David Axelrod, you guys all know him, and they're questioned by this kid, Daniel Schmidt, a freshman at the University of Chicago, and he completely lays them out with his questioning. And Anne Applebaum, her response, it's beautiful. It's so amazing. We should play this every single day. We're not going to beat you over the head, but listen to the condescension in her tone. Listen to the way that she's trying to explain why this student, with his irrational and irrelevant questioning about these are simply business deals that were conducted on behalf of Hunter Biden. They have certainly nothing to do with President Biden or his administration. Certainly not when he was vice president or any of the deals that went in for them. There's no need to question any of these things. There's no need to get any of this. This is the exact same type of neoliberal imperial hubris that we've been talking about for years now. This is how they think. This is what they do. And by the way, I went in and I did a Twitter dive on Anne Applebaum last night, and I looked up all of her tweets about Don Jr. And just to show a comparison, right? I'm not one of those people who wants to do, oh, look at the hypocrisy. But she did seem to be very, very interested in Don Jr.'s business practices, in the Trump Organization's business practices, and in Ivanka Trump's business practices, the children of the president. Yet when it comes to the children of her president, she doesn't care. So let's take this back a step. The Hunter Biden laptop, war room pandemic, obtained that laptop in October of 2020, right? With Steve Bannon, myself, Raheem Kassam, everybody was in the war room. And we started breaking the story. Emma Jo Morris, New York Post, launched the first salvo, immediately shut down. But then we took to Twitter, we took to TV, we made videos, we made reports, the National Pulse, Natalie Winters, story after story after story on this thing. But people like Anne Applebaum, And people like these 50 CIA officers and national security officers came out and said that it was all Russian propaganda and that you shouldn't look at it. And that even to this day, Ann Applebaum does not give up the script. She still won't admit what she did. She still won't admit what her side did, because that laptop and the stories that we've been putting out now for a year and a half, it's completely true. It was always true. The corruption of the Biden family and the way that it was directly related to politics, to American foreign policy, and not just foreign policy with Western Europe or Canada, countries that we have friendly relationships with. No. Countries like Ukraine, countries like China, countries like Kazakhstan, even Russia. I said before, Hunter Biden didn't care who he was taking the money from. He got paid to do a job, and his job was to curry favor for the oligarchs of Ukraine and the oligarchs of all these countries with his D.C. contacts. We've got the emails. They hired lobbyists in D.C. to do the bidding of the Ukrainian oligarchs and other oligarchs across the world. They didn't care. They didn't care about the corruption. All they cared about was the money. And President Biden, do you really think he didn't know what was going on? Hunter Biden was the bag man. He was the one who got the money, but it wasn't his money. It was the family money. And I've got a hard drive full of receipts explaining this. So come at me. Come at me if you want to, because I've got all the receipts on this. They go to him and they tell him, pay this account, pay that account, send a prepaid debit card here, send one there. It's all there. It's all in the hard drive. We've been showing this corruption from day number one. And that grand jury in Delaware, it's going to start with Hunter Biden. But if it were serious, you'd be looking at the entire family.
And so we will continue to recognize that in the state of Florida, parents have a fundamental role in the education, healthcare, and well-being of their children. We will not move from that. I don't care what corporate media outlets say. I don't care what Hollywood says. I don't care what big corporations say. Here I stand. I'm not backing down.
Okay, groomer. Well, that's Governor DeSantis explaining to the corporate media and corporate America that we are going to draw the line here. We are going to put a stop to the grooming of children. And if you're somebody who's out there that's talking about sexual information, sexual education to children, kindergarten to third grade, we're talking the youngest of the young children. If you think that's okay, if you think that's something that they need to learn instead of, I don't know, math, why does a caterpillar turn into a butterfly? Basic information, learning how to read. That's what little kids should be learning, right? How to share their toys, how to make change. That's what you teach kids. You don't get into this stuff. And if you do, guess what? You're a groomer. And what's amazing to me is the entire corporate media has lost their ever-loving minds on this. And it's glorious. It's absolutely glorious to see. So Christina Pushaw, who is the press secretary for Governor DeSantis, put up this complete montage. And I've got to read you these headlines. The national interest. Why Republicans are smearing everyone as pedophiles now. CNN. When a sitting U.S. Congresswoman gave oxygen to a dangerous conspiracy theory by falsely accusing her colleagues of being pro-pedophile, the country has a problem and her party has an urgent obligation to fix it. MSNBC, the Chris Hayes, one of my favorite people over there. GOP smears political operatives as pro-pedophile. This is QAnon tactics. The Washington Post. Teachers who mention sexuality are grooming kids, conservatives say. Well, that's true. They are. Philip Bump, the new Red Scare. The right leans into pedophilia accusations. Vice News, conservatives are smearing don't say gay opponents as pedophile groomers. Which, by the way, I actually love that one because their smearing of the bill as a don't say gay bill is in itself a smear. So they don't like the fact that they're getting a response from the bill that it's an anti-grooming bill, which it is, by the way, they're losing their minds. Joel Mathis, this is probably the craziest one. Oh, David French, by the way. You got to get David French first. All right. David French, the guy who's nominally a conservative, David French, against the groomer smear. And then Joel Mathis. Why are Republicans so concerned about grooming? Why would you have a problem with this? Okay, groomer. All right. Finally, the right is learning how to fight back. The same people who were baselessly smeared as Nazis, white supremacists, conspiracy theorists, Russian operatives spreading Russian disinformation for years, for absolute insurrectionists. Can't leave that one out. The insurrectionists. You got this committee now is going after Dan Scavino, by the way, and Peter Navarro, right? People who just worked for the president. Guys who operated in public, didn't break any laws, but they're going to go after them because of course they are. Of course they are. The right is finally fighting back. You're going after our children. You're trying to sexualize them, and we're putting a stop to it. And if you have a problem with that, then what kind of, look, let me break it down. What kind of person would have a problem with anti-grooming laws? What kind of person would oppose a grooming law? Simple question. It's a very simple question. So please explain to us why you have this desperate need to have to tell these children about all of these topics. Why? What's your driving motivation? I want to know. It's like, with Kentaji Brown Jackson. What's your judicial philosophy when it comes to this? What is your motivation? Deconstruct it for me, if you will. And they won't do it. Because at the end of the day, and a lot of people have been talking about this, there's been some really good Twitter threads, some articles being written, that on one hand, it's not just about grooming kids, it's about destabilizing society by going in and destroying the moral fabric of our society and teaching children to reject traditional moral values so that you can later institute new systems and new institutions based on false values. That's one angle. That is one angle. But then the other angle is that they want to groom children. So you get both. And go and look at the headlines. Public school teacher after public school teacher molesting children, taking inappropriate pictures of children, being inappropriate with children. Every single day across this country, a news story comes out about a public school teacher. So it's time to stop. We're going to protect our children, and these people are sick. Well, the city of Shanghai, my home away from home, the place where I lived for 2 years, the residents are rebelling as cases surge, but the lockdown is extended indefinitely. So if you spent any time in Shanghai, or if you've looked at it, you see one of the ubiquitous features of Shanghai is that everyone lives in these giant apartment towers. And each tower, and there's blocks and blocks and blocks of towers. That's the whole city. And it's very spread out. It's not like New York. It's much more spread out, wider roads, etc. And it's in the city of Shanghai, it started as a fishing colony along the Yangtze River, and it eventually just grew and grew and grew. The West came in after the Opium Wars, so you had like sort of a British mandate area. You had the French concession. There was a smaller American area that isn't around anymore. The French concession is still there, essentially. But the British really set up that area along the Bund, which is known as the walkway along the Huangpu River. And so right across from that is where you have the Oriental Pearl Tower, and then Lujiazui and Pudong, which is the financial hub of Shanghai, one of the biggest financial hubs in all of Asia. Well, the people there are all still in lockdown. And they are starting to rebel because this thing was only supposed to be 9 days. It was extended to the entire city. They're forcing people to stay in their homes. They can't walk their dogs. They can't walk their pets. So that means the houses are being filled with feces from dogs. Then now they're dropping them out the windows. People are going on social media. They're blasting the government. And you've also got people now coming out on the balconies of these apartments. I remember I had an apartment there. I had a balcony. And we actually had this cool room that was sort of like, it was like a glass enclosed balcony, so you could walk out on it. And I remember at one point my mom and my brother came to visit, and we actually had some plants out there. It was really, really nice. And people are coming out and singing from their balconies. Well, the CCP doesn't like any of this. So this video just came out. It's going viral on Weibo. It's got over 2 million views on Twitter, of a drone flying around the city in between these apartment buildings, telling people to stay in your homes. Take a listen.
Please comply with COVID restrictions. Control your soul's desire for freedom. Do not open the window or sing.
And the CCP has yet to put out an official explanation for this other than, well, it's a zero tolerance policy for COVID-19, a zero tolerance policy. Too bad you didn't have a zero tolerance policy when it came to the Wuhan lab and the gain of function experiments that you were conducting out there using technology that you got from America through EcoHealth Alliance, through Peter Daszak, through all that stuff. No, we're not going to get onto that. We're not even going to talk about any of that. But at the end of the day, you got 26 million people that are being kept in lockdown. There's a huge problem for the CCP. There's a huge problem for Xi Jinping. But at the end of the day, there is no leverage point on the CCP or on Xi Jinping other than the people themselves. By and large, the CCP's rule and Xi Jinping's rule is unchallenged inside of China. And a lot of people, these China hands, these analysts have said, well, we think that the CCP is just about to fall and they're going to collapse and the Chinese economy is about to blow up and Xi Jinping is about to fall out of power. And I say, show me the evidence. Show me the evidence of this actually happening. Yeah, I get that they have issues. We have issues too. But show me the evidence that any of these things are happening, because people have been saying that the CCP are about to collapse for 20 years when actually it's been the opposite. They've been growing. They're becoming more powerful. They've been taking more control and getting more influence not only in the country, but around the world. And that's the conditions that were created for a Xi Jinping to emerge. So they created the conditions for a Xi Jinping to emerge, who is about coming up November of this year, the 20th Party Congress in November, will be essentially able to declare himself paramount leader for life. And the CCP has not had a paramount leader since the days of Mao Zedong himself. Xi Jinping has effectively neutralized all of his opposition. The number one show in China for the last 5 years has been the forced confessions of what he calls corrupt officials. Yeah, they're all corrupt, but these officials were his opposition. Puts them away, makes them go on TV, struggle sessions, forced confessions. That's the CCP that's locking up all the people of Shanghai. So if you followed me for a while, you know that kind of a subplot of mine has been going after Kim Kardashian and keeping her accountable for the lies that she spreads in these criminal justice cases that she decides to stick her nose into. And I think there's two people that are trying to keep Kim Kardashian accountable. One of them is Tanya Prasovic and the other one's Kanye West. And he's got the receipts, at least on all that stuff. I've got the receipts when it comes to this stuff. I got her to delete an entire tweet thread the other day when she was trying to get involved with this death penalty case over a woman who had murdered her own daughter. Well, then Kim Kardashian goes on the Van Jones podcast, and we pulled the clip of this where she's talking about another death penalty case. In this case, the guy was executed, and I'll tell you more about it after we play the clip. But she makes it all about herself, and then is even able to work in a promo for her upcoming Skins brand. Of course, none other than Kim Kardashian is going to do that. Take a listen.
I was working on the Brandon Bernard case, and he was in fact executed. And I remember crying and feeling so helpless because it was his last phone call, and he was telling me, like, don't cry, it's going to be okay. And, hearing that he was worried that he would be claustrophobic in the chair. And then on his last call, when he was in the execution room, said, please tell Kim I'm not claustrophobic, it's okay. And like moments like that, I'm like, if only someone could see my day, I'm like hysterically crying, calling every governor that I could possibly imagine to try to stop someone's execution. And then I have to run into, you know, a Skims fitting, and I'm fitting and I'm crying and I can't really get my work done. And then I have to, you know, it was just such a whirlwind.
And so the Daily Mail wrote this up, you know, me calling her out and everybody's response. But I want to go in a little bit. So yeah, she makes it all about herself. She makes it all about her brand, her undergarments that she's selling. But there's something missing. There's actually two names that are missing from all of this. Two names, Todd Bakley and Stacey Bakley. Who were Todd Bakley and Stacey Bakley? Those were the victims of Brandon Bernard. Two youth pastors in Texas that Brandon Bernard and his buddies locked in the back of their trunk after they carjacked them, made them give them all their jewelry, go to the ATM, empty it, wallets, all that stuff, put them in the trunk. Then they drive them out to actually Fort Hood. They're on Fort Hood military base. All the while, the youth pastors are saying, you need to accept Jesus. You need to accept Jesus. Then they open the trunk. They start pouring gasoline on them. The couple starts praying, Jesus loves us, the married couple. They get shot in the head. And then Brandon Bernard torches the vehicle. And there's some question, by the way, as to what the actual cause of death for Stacey Bakley was. That she may not have been killed by the bullet, that it may have actually been the fire that caused her to die. She didn't die immediately when she was shot, the way her husband Todd did. That's who Kim Kardashian is defending. And if you're someone out there who has questions about the death penalty, if that's something that you're not sure about, go read your Genesis, go read your Bible, it's in there. But also look at this case and look at the insane level of brutality. And yet somehow Kim Kardashian doesn't care about the victims, doesn't care about their innocent lives, doesn't care about what these heinous people have done. She makes it all about herself, and she doesn't care what happens to the people that are cut down in the wake of this insane violence. Well, that's all the time we have for today for Human Events Daily. Remember, our promise, our oath, our solemn vow to you: be good, be brief, be gone. This is the podcast for people who don't like podcasts, because we get to the point faster and with more higher breaking analysis and breaking stories than anyone else out there. Remember, your homework for us: share this out with just one of your normie friends and leave us your 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your politics. What did we talk about today? Ann Applebaum refusing to discuss the Hunter Biden laptop. We also got into the OK groomer scandal and corporate media defending the grooming of children. We talked about Shanghai residents rebelling as these lockdowns are extended indefinitely. And then, of course, Kim Kardashian making these death penalty cases, these heinous crimes, all about herself. Before we go, today's moment in history. 1994, today, was the date that the Rwandan genocide, the mass killings, broke out. There's always suffering in this world. There's always evil in this world. Focus on what you can control. Focus on what's right in front of your face. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission to lay ashore.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Breakaway Podcast. Look at this place. It looks good. All these jerseys. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We have a fantastic Sunday conversation for you. Before I introduce you to our guests, who I got to talk out in Atlanta, Georgia, too, at the NCAA Division I Women's Swimming Championships, TPUSA Live. You know, you got to love Breakaway because you got to dig me a little bit, right? If you're watching and listening to this. And if you want some more of me, TPUSA Live. You can go to tpusa.com/live. I am live every single weekday at 1:30 from the couch here at TPUSA HQ in Phoenix, Arizona. We give you the truth. We give you the news. We talk about entertainment and do whatever we can to fight back against this crazy woke culture full of identity politics and full of letting men compete in women's sports. We can have the conversation till we're blue in the face about how this is wrong. We all know this is wrong. If you understand biology or you understand morals whatsoever, we know that Leah Thomas being allowed to compete in the swimming championships or even just on any women's team whatsoever is wrong. But someone who's doing some incredible work is Beth Stelzer. She's teamed up with some incredible women and other activists around the country, even around the world, to start Save Women's Sports. It's been around since 2019, and they are trying to defend women at all costs. When I first went out there, they were very close to the Macaulay Aquatic Center entrance on Georgia Tech University's campus where the swimming championships was held. I talked to her and so many other incredible ladies that are trying to express to people, this is why it's wrong. We're not just here to complain about it. And they're trying to do whatever they can to have a seat at the table with the NCAA and not just protect women's sports in the NCAA, but just girls' sports in general. There's absolutely no reason why biological men should be a part of this. She also dives into the psychology because she's actually gone through some really tough individual circumstances herself, even with some abuse that she opens up about. And that's what's happening here. Not a lot of people are talking about the psychological, about what it's like for a female athlete going to a safe space. I know I bring that up in the episode. I don't like the phrase, but when you go into a changing room, you expect that to be a safe place. And then when you have someone waltzing around with male genitalia, it's psychologically ruining these women. And men are erasing women from the history books. They're taking away opportunities. It's a shame. It's wrong. But Beth does a great job breaking this down in such a way that it will inspire you and give you the tools and resources to fight back against this. So upon further ado, Beth Stelzer of Save Women's Sports. All right, we're outside of the Georgia Tech Aquatic Center with Beth from Save Women's Sports, a huge part of the protest group outside of the Aquatic Center. There's been a lot going on throughout this entire weekend, but first and foremost, I want to hear about the mission and goals behind Save Women's Sports.
Well, first, thank you for the opportunity, and I apologize to the audience. I have a cough drop in. We're pretty hoarse. We have been chanting and cheering for these women all week here, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Our team is basically celebrating our 3-year anniversary of advocacy. We've gone from a free website that I started a few years ago to now an international coalition with laws in our name. And we came to celebrate our 3 years by celebrating these girls who are bullied into silence, that are getting their titles, opportunities robbed from them. And it's not fair. And they deserve a voice because women matter. So brought my team down here today to let them know that we won't back down and we won't compromise when it comes to women's rights.
And then what's been the response from the other side? Because the other side, I know I've talked to them myself, and they seem to have this cultural aspect of it from their side down. But when you get down to the nitty-gritty of sports and real science, it seems like, I know a lot of people brought up,
they can't even join the debate when it comes to actually talking truth and facts. They're just caught in their feelings, and they really can't justify their position when you start talking facts. It was very fun to watch Colin Wright interact with them. It was like knocking them in the head with an encyclopedia. Like, you want facts? Here it is. Like, they cannot justify their position to us, and I find that really interesting. And they're the ones saying that we're harassing them, but yet we're getting called all these vicious names, hateful signs, getting flicked off, etc. We're just cheering for girls is all we've done, and we've never engaged negatively. Right now, actually, there's representatives from both sides of the aisle having a very civil conversation, and it is just refreshing and lovely. Most of these are obviously college students, it looks like, that are gathering across the street. And you know what? I give it up to them for exercising their First Amendment rights to be here.
And then you were the one that had the Save Women's Sports sign that you draped over the railing, and I know that went viral. Tell us about that moment and some of the responses you've been getting in person and online.
It was very interesting, and I appreciate the opportunity to share my story about it. I saw Leah was coming up to swim, and I decided now was the time to get out the flag, and I saw that right in front of my assigned seat was an NCAA banner on the railing, and so I jumped up, held it over, and I actually wasn't there for very long, so I was grateful that the cameras caught me, because one of the hired security there told me to effing put it away and to effing leave.
They told you to get out, and they used profanity.
They used extreme profanities, and this is a very large man screaming at me, a woman who has suffered from PTSD, from sexual abuse and domestic violence. Luckily, I'm a power lifter. I got strong on the inside when I got strong on the outside, so I knew I was in the rules. The only thing I did wrong was hold the banner over the railing and possibly block some people's view behind me. So I was very respectful. When he did tell me that, I knew I was within my rights, folded up my flag quietly, and resumed my seat.
What were the responses you were getting inside of the aquatic center too? Because I'm sure there's a few people that are going to be murmuring, and I'm sure there's a few people that they're obviously afraid. They're afraid to speak. But did you get some like pats on the back? What happened?
And my team has been shocked. We started out Thursday, and we'd get some parents, etc., that would walk by us and kind of let us know, with a little subtle gesture. And today they're walking out going, yeah, give me that book, give me that sticker, give me that button, we'll support you. So it's really been great. And last night we saw people starting to chant with us, and it's just great to know that we have the support and they know that they're supported.
And I think a tough part about this too, a lot of the conversations that I've had inside of the aquatic center is, it's just like so many aspects of our society. People don't know how to speak on this, and it just gets hyper emotional, and they know this is wrong, but they just don't know how to break it down specifically. So how do you encourage people to say, like, whether you have a religious foundation or you just agree that men are biologically have an advantage over women? How do you tell people to talk?
Backgrounds come together for this. It's totally nonpartisan. Religion doesn't have to be a part of it, but if you come from that part, fine. Whatever it is that brought you to this, come to our team. Mm-hmm. We won't compromise. Save Women's Sports is here to say that women matter. We're not worn. We're born. Yep. We're not some costume. It's not identities that play sports. It's bodies that play sports. Yep. I'm tired of being painted as being anti-trans when, in fact, I fully support any person's right to play sports just fairly. And that means according to your biological sex.
And then there's this aspect, I know I was asking them on the other side that were pro Leah. I was asking, it seems like what you're breaking down a woman as is just testosterone levels and feeling. And it didn't seem like they had a good response to that, because I feel like in this country you can believe what you want to believe, you can change your name to what you want, you can be whatever. It's a free country, but when we talk about specifically sports, tell us how this is not an advantage over these women, and tell us how you're actually protecting women by supporting what's going on here.
It's absurd to think that a male body can become a woman by any means, let alone lowering a testosterone level. And let's look at the facts here. These testosterone levels that we're looking at between the IOC and the NCAA have been 10 and 5 that they've played around with. Nanomoles a liter. An average woman is under 1, under 3 most. So you're looking at up to 10 times still the amount of testosterone that a woman would have that these males are allowed to still maintain and compete. It's just, we're getting conflated with little details that shouldn't matter, right? It's simple. It's absurd that I need to be here. Males, females, it's all it is. We don't need to conflate it with things. Women are not a hormone level.
And then also, too, from the NCAA side of things, it seems like that's where everyone is very upset. And I think from my viewpoint, I do understand the argument of right now Leah is playing by the rules. But also at the same time, that doesn't make it just wrong on the NCAA side. Leah knew that transitioning to a woman was taking advantage of a situation, taking advantage of women here. So but specifically from the NCAA perspective, if you were able to sit down with them, also, have they reached back out to you? Have they given you the time of day before I ask the full question?
The only response that we have gotten back from them was after our petition of 300 athletes asking the NCAA to step up almost 2 years ago was leaked. They doxed our athletes that was supposed to be in a private petition. So we heard back from them about that they basically weren't going to do anything to help us. And that's the last we've heard from them. They had meetings where they supposedly consulted women. Can't find any of my over 40 women's organizations that are on my side that were consulted. Some of the top athletes speaking out, they weren't consulted. I'd like to really know, the NCAA and the IOC, who were the women that were consulted, because it seems to me the only, quote, women on their panel were men assuming the identity of women.
And it seems like right now, too, there's a massive push from places I know, like ESPN's covering this event right now, and they are constantly talking about social issues and how to protect women, how to make sure there's more media coverage, especially when we're talking right now with March Madness. Men's March Madness obviously it's going to get more viewership because there's more sponsorship dollars, there's more entertainment, and people are just more attracted to that. But when it comes down to how do you actually protect women, and some of these women out here are some of the best in the world. Watching Reagan Smith swim today, it's fantastic.
The swimming, the diving, these athletes, it's absolutely incredible to watch them out there, and to think that they're suffering not only with a male competing against them, but these girls are forced to share their locker room with these males. And I think a lot of people in the audience don't realize that these males self-identifying their way into sports, hospitals, rape crisis shelters, they don't have, quote, bottom surgery. A lot of these males are intact male bodies. So let's be honest, these poor girls are forced to share their locker room with a male body, a male strutting around with his intact genitalia out. There are girls on that team who have suffered from sexual abuse that should not be forced to deal with that. And when any of them raised the alarm, you know what they did? They told the girls to basically go see the campus shrink and change in another locker room. It's absolutely absurd. Why don't their voices matter? I have suffered from these things. I understand what the PTSD is like. You need a sex-separated space to feel safe. I want to know that when I go into the bathroom, I'm not going to run into anything that might possibly harm me like that. And a male body is a threat, whether they are a threat or not. In a woman's head who suffered abuse, that male body is a threat, and I should have the right to have my own space.
And then I hate the phrase safe space, but I mean, I feel like that's the best place to say, like, you know, bathrooms and changing rooms, they should be a safe space for women. And knowing that it's not just women's records being erased right now, it's not just opportunities because they finish outside of the top 8 and they're not able to make it to the finals. It's actually this psychological damage that it's happening, having to change in the same locker room as a man here. And I think that's not being brought up. It seems like now that there's more than just the sports conversation. There's obviously a cultural aspect to this. There's the psychological aspect, especially too. It's not just women being erased from the record book. It's not just losing out on opportunities because they didn't finish in the top 8. They're not able to be a part of the finals because that's taken by a biological man. We're talking about the psychological harm and damage that's happening to these women because they're having to see a naked man in the locker room and have to deal with these kind of things.
And the psychological harm goes beyond just seeing the male in the bathroom. We need to look at the little details that are making a huge difference. And we need to start with this preferred pronouns. That's psychological abuse to tell a woman that she has to identify a man as a woman. It's going against our natural instincts. And now this culture that is jumping onto this gender ideology bandwagon is now training next generations to accept male bodies in their sex-separated spaces as normal. And I'm not saying that any male that is self-identifying their way in is going to be a predator, but we need to have a place that we can feel safe from predators. And that means that women deserve a sex-separated space. And like you said, it's sports, it's rape crisis shelters, it's hospitals, it's prisons. I don't think a lot of people realize that there are male rapists, like males who have raped children, that are now in prisons with women, and they're harming women. And they're not only harming women, they're getting transitions on the tax dollar.
Well, you know what's silly is men in women's sports. And you know what else is silly? This look right here. But something that's not silly is Good Ranchers. I know food is a huge part of the sports experience. And what if you could party down with your friends, maybe go a little sports watch party and donate to TPUSA at the same time as eating good? Now you can with Good Ranchers. They sell 100% American meat, and they believe so much in what we're doing right here that they'll donate $50 to TPUSA on your behalf when you purchase from them. Good Ranchers delivers steakhouse quality beef, chicken, seafood, right to your door. And with our code TPUSA, that's TPUSA, donate 50 buckaroos to our mission while getting absolutely delicious food. Head on over to goodranchers.com/TPUSA today. Get ribeyes, New York strips, gourmet burgers, and so much more. Anything your heart desires, order now with promo code TPUSA, and $50 will be donated to our mission of sharing and preserving true American values, which includes getting men the heck out of women's sports. Go to goodranchers.com/TPUSA to get a box today. Once again, use promo code TPUSA at goodranchers.com/TPUSA. Do good while you eat good. Everyone knows about Loudoun County, or at least I'd say the vast majority of Americans have heard about that story there. And that's when somebody took advantage of a transgender law. And that is on a campus. That was on a high school campus. But I remember, like, when I was in college, hearing so much about me being an athlete, about how we need to be protecting the women on campus, how we need to be respecting the women on campus, and knowing that, like, there's a reason there's security all around this campus, on my campus when I was going there.
When it comes down to it, if you can't define a woman, how do you protect her? And when we erase sex and put in gender identity, it erases the definition of what a woman is. A woman is simply an adult human female. And this conflation of language is how we're getting to this destructive point in this toxic environment, because there's no clarity. We need to use proper pronouns, not preferred pronouns. And in the media, thankfully, we have some media like you guys that are telling the honest truth. They're male bodies. It's a he, not a she. And if we were all open and honest about that, I think that the world would be more knowledgeable. But we're just running into these roadblocks that the cancel culture keeps throwing in there, red herrings to throw people off from finding the honest truth. And that is this, with sports, that we're seeing is the beginning of the erasure of women in our record books, in history period. There's no asterisk to show that Leah's record was set by a male. Generations ahead now are going to look up to that and go, oh, maybe I'm just not training hard enough. And they might not have in the history books that was a male body. We need to be clear, and we need to make the right history. We need to make the truth, and that needs to be recorded.
And I know something for me, just specifically on the sports side of things, there's some people that are on both sides of the argument when it comes to, like, Barry Bonds. Like, for me, I love baseball, and the reason I don't think he should be a part of the Hall of Fame is because he took performance-enhancing drugs. And I don't understand people now when they basically say, like, you're born performance-enhancing over women.
Exactly.
So,
I'm an amateur power lifter, and USA Powerlifting was one of the first organizations to make a rule that said it's not fair for you to compete against a woman because we don't let dopers in. Why would we let you in? It just makes sense. And that's actually what started me on my journey. I went to the 2019 Minnesota Women's State Championships, and I worked so hard to get there. And when I got there, my whole day was tarnished because this man who wasn't allowed to compete as a woman protested disruptively the entire event while we were lifting, etc., the entire day. So that's why I knew what to do with my team to stay respectful. We're holding signs, we're doing what's right, and we're letting those girls know that they matter.
Yeah, because I feel like that should be the focus here. Is this is not just about one athlete, and I feel like that's like everybody I've talked to. That's what.
We're not here to target anyone. This is just simply about being pro-woman.
Yeah.
And that's a real woman.
Yeah, and that's where it gets to the cultural aspect of this year. It's like, what is a woman? I remember asking the other side, I'm like, can you describe to me what a woman is? And it sounds like from what you're telling me is one of the supporters over there said, it's kind of like a spiritual thing. It's kind of a feeling. It's like
feeling, right?
It's like whatever. And I think that completely devalues women. And I think that's why it's been fascinating for me having these conversations, because I'm not a woman. You look at me, I'm not a woman, but
You're not?
I'm not. Shocker, right?
How do I know, though? How do I know? You have a beard.
Because I'm going to tell you my pronouns right now. No, I'm
okay,
kidding.
okay. Oh, well, we can be clear then. Okay.
And that's where I feel like there's this aspect of it's devaluing women in every aspect of society.
I look at this erasure as women as the ultimate misogyny.
Yeah. And I think that's why, for me, it's like, as men, I am always going to ask the question, and I know when I had Erica Brown and Gabby DeLoof on our podcast, just amazing professional swimmers, it's like, how do men come alongside women in this debate? And I think we don't need to get into the abortion topic, but I think I asked the same thing there. Like, there is people that are adamantly against that, and there's the other side trying to say, if you don't have a uterus, you don't have an opinion. And I think this is a cultural thing that we all need to come together. It doesn't matter what race, religion, background.
Totally
you need to come together.
My international coalition is women from the left, from the right, from this religion, from that religion, from this background, from that background. We are all coming together. And I look back at one of my pivotal figures that brought me here today, Magdalene Burns, rest her soul. She reminded us that we don't all have to agree on everything to come together on this one thing. And that's what I would love the world to do, is just wake up. We don't all have to agree, but it's time to speak up together to protect women.
So going off of that then, has there been some progress made with the other side, whether it's been people actually with the signs out there across the street from you ladies, or has it been people, coming out of the aquatic center saying, I thought this maybe when the event started, and then by the end of this weekend here, I've changed my mind a little bit. What's been the positive change?
Similar to like the response, how from Thursday we were getting the little fist pumps to now it's hands in the air. People are more bold. They weren't wanting to take our brochures and stuff at first. We were getting some cold shoulders. People really didn't want to be associated with us. They were scared, but now they're all on it. They're like, these people are legit. We're really just here for women. We are not anti-trans or trying to ban anyone from playing in sports. Just want to protect the eligibility for female sports to be on the basis of sex. And that's what Title IX was supposed to do. 50 years in June. It was already erased by Biden on International Women's Day. Yep. It's absolutely ridiculous. I had a lovely lady behind me in the stands during prelims. I know she was holding a sign that was supportive of us, and she was telling us how she grew up playing sports in the 60s and saw what Title IX did for her. And she just tears. But I want to share her awesome sign with you. Yep. DQXY. I think it's pretty simple right there.
And for people that might be watching or listening to this, what exactly does that mean? Because I know what it means.
Right. So DQ, disqualify, XY, the man.
Yeah. And I think there's been a lot of clever signs. I know, not to toot my own horn, I felt it was kind of clever.
They were so funny.
Because I put it up and it was like, dude with the signs, a big Instagram account from a guy from New York just holding up a cardboard sign. Yes, it was literally just as simple as, hey, NCAA, I got a question. Why are men competing? And it doesn't seem like the NCAA wants to give an answer to that at all. So my follow-up question would be then, I know I talked to Seth Houston, the swim coach for Rice. I'm asking the same thing, like, what's the solution? If you're able to sit down with the NCAA, maybe other activist groups, and Leah Thomas, what would be presented, and how would you find a specific solution here? What would you present?
Competing on the basis of sex. Women have XX chromosomes, men have XY chromosomes. They're very, very rare occasions of disorders of sexual development, or intersex as they're called. And let's look at that on an individual basis and how we can handle those disorders and stop conflating it with transgenderism. That's, it's very disrespectful for the people born with these disorders, for people identifying a certain way to hop on and try and steal their rights from them.
Couple more questions, because I'm in the line of thinking is the best way to love people is by telling them the truth. And the truth is unbelievably uncomfortable. And even all you ladies out there protesting, that is wildly uncomfortable. It's wildly countercultural. But I think the best way for us to care for each other is getting down to not just feeling, but like what is the truth? What is morality here? What is biology? And I think if people are going to continue to tell Leah that there's something that they're not, all they're doing is hurting them more than helping them.
There's extreme power in honesty. I've testified before. I say that my tongue is my sword and the truth is my shield. Yeah, there's great power in just speaking the truth. And I found that once I haven't backed down to the bullies, the death threats and such stop, because they know I'm not going to stop. I won't weesht, and that's a saying from Scotland. I mean, this is going on all over the world. This isn't just the United States. All levels of sport, all levels of sex-based spaces. We have women that are not only threatened with their scholarships, their jobs.
Yeah.
They're getting sued. I'm currently in the middle of some stuff that it's ridiculous that I could get faced with discrimination for calling a male a male.
Yep.
What kind of world are we in, John?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so thankful you guys are here to spread the truth.
Yeah, and I think that's what we have to do. And there's going to be, I know I posted about this the other day. I'm like, this is the time to speak up. And it's not just, hey, we have a heightened moment.
It's already too late.
Yeah.
It's already too late. The floodgate is starting to open, and if we don't close it now, we will not be able to get women's sports back. It will be co-ed sports eventually, but soon we will just have male sports, because we know that the top females can never compete with the top males. Women will just fade away, and that's exactly what some people are wanting, the erasure of the definition of woman.
My final question for you would be then, right now, it's just, once again, such a heightened moment. There's so many eyes on NCAA Division I swimming and on one athlete. But the fight doesn't stop at the end of the finals tonight. The fight's got to keep going to make sure that women are protected and women's sports are protected at all costs. So what's the fight going to look like after this weekend, and what can people do to help?
They can come on our website, savewomensports.com/takeaction, and they can join up to be in our next protesting team. There will be more sports these next few months and through the summer that are going to experience the same atrocity, and Save Women's Sports plans to be there and not let it go down quietly. So our plan is to be around anytime this is happening. Males shouldn't be competing as females. It's just simple. Why am I here? I'm just a mom. I'm just a mom who had a hobby of powerlifting and had this crazy experience happen. Never in a million years did I think I would be here. The other average moms out there just need to start speaking up, because it's almost already too late. And if I can do this, help create laws, help get on ESPN News with a banner, what can you do?
Yep.
That's what I want to tell people out there. It's time. What can you do?
Yeah, and that's why I think we need everybody to come together. And I think you've said this before. So many of you women over there have said, like, we're just not some sort of extraordinary people that have like superpowers. We're just ordinary.
I'm very uncomfortable being in the spotlight. I'm extremely introverted. I'm stepping out of my comfort zone every time I put a Save Women's Sports shirt on, but I do it because I know it's right.
Yeah, and I respect that so much. And I hope people respect that too, even the way that you ladies go about it. There's going to be a lot of people that just see some photos and a few little clips online, but they're not going to see the interactions that are happening right outside of the aquatic center. And I think you guys are trying to actually come to the table. Talk to people on the other side here. Talk to parents, spectators, everybody. Let's try to get down to the truth again and understand a way forward. And you are not just a group of ladies that's just trying to shout people down from the rooftop of your own ideals. So I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and for shining a light on this madness.
Thanks a lot, Beth.
This chick legit named her daughter Poot. She said it's unique. Oh my gosh, is it actually a cute name for real, or is this chick out of her mind?
Dad, I'm hungry.
Hi, Hungry. I'm Dad.
Why did you name me this way?
Kim Kardashian has been trying to save a woman from death row in Texas, claiming that she's innocent, even though she most definitely killed her daughter. Now, Kim's deleted the tweets. I'll give you the receipts on that. Remember Jeanette McCurdy from iCarly and Sam and Cat? She wrote a memoir, and the title of it has pissed off a lot of people. This woman was fired from her job for saying Vice President Kamala Harris's outfit looked like a UPS uniform. And then we'll time travel and see what happened this week in pop culture history with the Pop Culture Rewind. I'm Alex Clark, and this is Poplitics. You may have seen some tweets from Kim Kardashian lately asking the state of Texas to save a woman named Melissa Lucio from death row. But man, is this juicy. Buckle up.
I'm nervous, but I'm excited.
The story about Melissa Lucio starts in 2007 when paramedics were called to the Lucio home because Melissa's youngest of 14 children, 2-year-old Mariah, wasn't breathing. Melissa told paramedics that Mariah had fallen down the stairs a few days earlier, which is why she must have stopped breathing, insinuating that she had succumbed to her injuries. Mariah was pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital. The thing is, Mariah had multiple telltale signs of abuse on her body. Bite marks, whole patches of hair that had been pulled out, and even a broken arm that doctors determined had actually been broken anywhere from 2 to 7 weeks before the supposed stairs incident.
Well, that's suspicious.
Mariah's autopsy also showed tons of internal injuries, like bruising on her kidneys, injuries to her spinal cord, lungs, and a head injury. I mean, falling down the stairs? We've all heard that excuse before from someone trying to cover up abuse. The thing is, Melissa's confession wasn't exactly rock solid. She ended up saying, "I guess I did it," after 7 hours of grueling interrogation where she wasn't allowed to eat or drink. This led to groups like the Innocence Project and others insinuating that Melissa was wrongfully convicted of murder and sentenced to death, and that Melissa's behavior during the interrogation was just because she is a victim of abuse herself. They've also been using the diversity excuse as to why Melissa should be let off the hook since, she's the only Latina woman on death row, because that matters.
What does that have to do with anything?
Long story short, Melissa is scheduled to be executed on April 27th, as in a few weeks. A couple days ago, Kim Kardashian called Governor Abbott asking for clemency. Kim has also been tweeting this week about how Melissa is innocent and her daughter died in a tragic, traumatizing accident that could happen to anyone.
I just feel so bad.
This has led to a lot of criticism on Kim's part, mainly because she's clearly an idiot. Kim has now deleted her tweets insisting Melissa's innocent, since she probably realized that there is no question we've got a child murderer on our hands.
That's awkward.
The moral of the story is, don't trust Kim Kardashian and her advocacy for criminals.
I wasted everyone's time. I wasted everyone's money. I wasted everyone's everything, and I feel bad.
If you're watching Poplitics, then you most likely grew up watching iCarly or Sam and Cat, so you should know who Jeanette McCurdy is.
It is about April Fools!
She recently announced the title of her new book, a memoir, and a lot of people are super offended by the title she chose. It's called I'm Glad My Mom Died.
Oh, wow. That's really disturbing.
Is it spicy? Yeah, but I actually love this title. Let me explain. A lot of people don't know this, but she had a really messed up childhood and essentially only became an actress because her mom, who was super abusive, forced her to. When Jeanette was 6, her mom became obsessed with the idea of her becoming a star. She was even bleaching her daughter's hair and whitening her teeth before she even turned 10. She was extremely strict with Jeanette's eating habits, eventually causing Jeanette to develop multiple eating disorders. Her mom never allowed her to shower alone, even as a teenager, and her mom performed breast and vaginal exams on her herself. In 2013, Jeanette's mom, Debbie, died of cancer, leading to Jeanette finally quitting acting for good, getting therapy, and eventually writing this memoir.
I'm on board.
I think the title is freaking brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I hope she spills. Just placed my pre-order last night, so I will be reading. She clearly knows how a good provocative title will sell and get attention, so I think it's perfect. I love dark humor. I've always liked Jeanette. So my question is, do you like the title for this, or do you think it's too much?
Never do that again!
You're not the boss of me.
I followed conservative commentator Amber Athey for a while on Twitter. She's the Washington editor for The Spectator magazine's World Edition and also had a regular spot on DC talk station WMAL. But she doesn't anymore. That's because she was fired after a tweet that made fun of Vice President Kamala Harris's outfit at the State of the Union.
I think we should have that conversation.
Remember that hideous brown suit she wore? On March 1st, Amber tweeted, "Kamala looks like a UPS employee. What can Brown do for you? Nothing good, apparently." According to the New York Post, Amber tweeted critically a few days later about people in favor of trans kids. And that's when left-wing activists started coming for her. They combed her Twitter trying to find anything they could to get her fired from her job and sent dozens of emails to her employers demanding Amber face consequences. One of the tweets they claimed proved her racism was the joke about the vice president.
I'm sorry, what?
Amber said all of a sudden, the Kamala tweet was being reframed as racist and dozens of Twitter accounts were bragging about contacting my employers about my bigotry. At first, all of her colleagues laughed it off and deleted the complaint emails. But then 8 days after the tweet, Amber was contacted out of the blue by Jeff Bowden, the vice president of station owner Cumulus Washington and their human resources vice president. She said, "They told me that the tweet I sent about Kamala was racist and that subsequent follow-ups defending myself and making fun of the efforts to cancel me were unacceptable. I had violated the company's social media policy," they said, "and I was terminated effective immediately."
Whoa.
I heard there's a new movement coming. Brown clothes matter. Anyone who makes fun of the color brown or is white and wears brown is racist.
That is really racist.
All right. Time to see what happened this week in pop culture history with a pop culture rewind time machine. This week in 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated by James Earl Ray in Memphis, Tennessee, and the entire country grieved.
Eyewitnesses to the assassination say that Dr. King left his room 306 at the Lorraine Hotel just before dinner to get some air. He walked over to the railing at this spot, and noticing some friends below, he leaned over and began to speak with them. Police say 205 feet away, in a window in a flop house, the assassin waited.
In 1994, this week, the lead singer of Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, committed suicide and was found 3 days later. His legacy lives on by teenagers who wear Nirvana shirts but can't name a single song. A little true crime for you. In 1996, this week, the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, was captured at his cabin in Montana.
April 3rd, 1996, 20 years ago today. The day the FBI arrested Theodore Kaczynski, the suspected Unabomber, at his cabin in rural Montana.
And everyone's favorite animal lover, the crocodile hunter, came on the scene in 1997 this week with the debut of his show, The Crocodile Hunter, on Animal Planet. I really hope Steve Irwin didn't force any of his crocodiles to have brown scales. That would be racist.
Whew. Danger, danger, danger.
And that's what happened this week in pop culture history. The brand new episode of The Spillover that comes out tonight at 9 p.m. Pacific and midnight Eastern is with a guest discussing a topic that you guys requested. You said, "Alex, I really want you to talk to someone who lived through this." So I found someone. And the interview has ended up being one of my favorites because not only is it deeply moving and interesting, some parts are honestly just hilarious. Get ready to find all about a way of life that is a really big mystery to a lot of people tonight on The Spillover. Don't forget to heart this politics episode. Tell me whether you like or dislike Jeanette's memoir title, and if it's not just brown that Kamala can't pull off, but pantsuits in general. DM this episode to your friend who also used to watch iCarly and click that save button for us, okay? Thank you, worms. We're back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. It's pop culture without the propaganda every single day. I'm Alex Clark, and this is Politics. Clearly, Politics is best served visually, but you can also listen to Politics if you just want the audio. Subscribe to us anywhere you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, iHeart, TuneIn, and more. Also, make sure that if you are listening to the podcast version, you leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget, subscribe to Politics on YouTube.